Stories number 1. My 34 wife 37 is pissed because I bought and had lunch with a female coworker. Did I really do something wrong here? First of all, my workplace has 3 floors. One floor has an even-ish number of guys and girls. The other 2 have mainly women. This new girl Alice joined a few months ago. I didn't really know a whole lot about her, but we have hung out in a few Friday evening after work drinking sessions. Not a whole lot of interaction prior to that. We just chat on occasion when we see each other at work, or if she has to come to the floor I work on, or I have to go down there. She is aware I am married. They met briefly at a company event shortly after Alice started working there. This was when I really first got introduced to her. Hell, most everyone here knows I'm married. 2 pictures on my desk are of my family. Anyway, the other day I was heading to lunch when Alice asked me to grab some lunch with her because she needed some advice. I said no problem. We went to lunch. There's a food court a couple buildings away, so we went there, and I paid for both of us to grab some Thai food. We chatted for a while, then she began asking for advice, which was the purpose of grabbing lunch together. She has a boyfriend. He's into fishing and hiking and rock climbing, that sort of thing. So am I. It's something my brothers and I, as well as our sister, grew up doing. One of the girls on her floor mentioned that I'm into these things, and she should ask me, because she wanted advice about what kinds of gear to buy for him for his birthday. She wanted to buy him a compilation of equipment, some fishing gear, some hiking, some climbing. So we chatted for a while about that, and on her phone I showed her some supplies she could pick up for him, and told her if she needed more help, just ask. Then we went back to work and that was it. So I came home and forgot all about it. Played with the kids, watched television for a bit, washed the dishes, and that was it. It wasn't really something significant for me, so I didn't mention it. 2 days later, my wife Karen asks me where I was for lunch that day. So I told her grabbing lunch with a coworker. She's angry and I'm pretty surprised as to why. I just told her Alice and I grabbed lunch. She wanted some help picking presents for her BF who has similar interests that I also have. Told her I bought lunch, we chatted. I showed her some stuff she could buy on her phone, and then we went back to work. I might as well have dug my own grave saying that. She's been absolutely furious the past couple of days, throwing scathing comments and that sort of thing. I'm pretty hurt. I don't see what I did wrong. Maybe not telling her immediately was wrong, I guess, but I didn't do anything with ill intent toward her or our marriage, so it just didn't bother me. It also didn't help that her friends saw us at the food court eating lunch, which was who she heard it from. Now the thing about Alice, she's younger than Karen by 11 years and is a typically attractive girl. Perky and fairly cheerful. Quite a few guys hit on her when we're at those after-work drinking sessions. So I guess this is a factor, because on Saturday when I asked my wife if she wanted to grab some dinner, I got a very sullen, "Maybe you should get lunch with Alice" in response. Another time she did mention maybe you just want a younger woman or something. I don't. I love my wife. I love my marriage. I'm a faithful man. I don't think what I did was so wrong. I get her hearing it from her friend might have made it sound much worse than it really was. Yes, Alice is attractive and younger, but that doesn't matter to me. However, it seems to bother my wife a lot. Was I really wrong here? How can I address this situation? TLDR. Wife is angry I bought and had lunch with a female coworker. Coworker wanted advice on presents for her BF. He and I have similar interests. Wife doesn't believe that, or just doesn't care to hear it right now. What to do? Relevant comments. Replied to a deleted comment. Yup, first time. I have been thinking that too. Maybe she feels she's getting older. Has had a couple of kids. Feels threatened or something. She has no reason to be. But if that's what she's feeling, I'd understand. I mean, if my wife suddenly had a younger, hot guy friend, I might be quite envious, annoyed. But I wouldn't really be angry unless she was actively going out of her way to talk to this guy and things like that. If she was just giving someone advice for their own relationship, there's no problem there. Alice and I don't even speak a whole lot beyond the occasional hey at work when we see each other. I doubt it's the US not grabbing lunch thing. We work at least a half hour away from each other, so having lunch together is kind of a chore, where we have to plan stuff and leave work 15 minutes earlier. That kind of thing. We do it once a month or so, though. Commenter 1. 2 days later, my wife Karen asks me where I was for lunch that day. Did you ask her why she was asking? It seems a bit odd to ask days later. I personally don't think you did anything wrong. I imagine you would have told her if she had asked you that evening how your day was. But I wonder if a friend or colleague of hers saw you two together. Gave her a heads up and she's embarrassed for one reason or another. Reply, yeah, a friend of hers did see us and mentioned it to her when she saw her a few days later. I don't think she's embarrassed but angry. Commenter 2. It wasn't appropriate for you to buy her lunch, really. But mostly I find myself wondering whether you have a pattern of being oblivious to these sorts of things. Either way, keep your distance from Alice and cut down on the work drinking sessions. Reply, our work drinking sessions are a tradition. I don't go as often anymore, but I've been with this company for 9 years, so no, I won't be cutting down the couple times a month I do go out. My wife has her own Friday hangouts with co-workers as well that she does sometimes. Commenter 3, I guess I don't see the issue here. My SO goes out to lunch with different co-workers all the time. And he's the type of person that usually pays. I wouldn't even think twice about it if someone mentioned that they saw him out to lunch with a pretty woman. Some of his co-workers are pretty women. I don't generally ask him about who he ate lunch with or where he ate unless we are planning dinner, and I don't want to go to Thai if he's already had Thai or whatever, because honestly that would be a really boring conversation to have every day. I'm not sure why everyone is telling you that you're wrong or that your wife is correct in being so upset. Just give her a little time to cool down and then explain the situation better. When tempers aren't flaring, I really don't think there's anything wrong with what you did. Reply, thank you, I thought that was a little weird too. I mean, I could understand the whole telling me I should have told her, but oh, you shouldn't have paid. You're just doing it because she was pretty. Your wife is right to be pissed, seriously? In future, I'll remember to mention that kind of stuff to her, but I had no ill intentions towards my marriage. Commenter 4. If it upsets your wife, it is a boundary for her. Do you love her? If yes, then you should respect her boundaries. For me, the biggest problem would be that you bought this woman lunch. When is the last time you sent your wife flowers at work to surprise her, or spent money on her randomly? What I see is that your wife is upset that you did something for another woman randomly and enjoyed it, and she feels that you are not doing that for her. I may be totally off base here. Just my perspective, I hope it helps. Reply, I buy my wife nice things quite often, and we treat each other to random nights out frequently. We just got lunch and I helped her pick stuff for her boyfriend, that's all. People keep making it seem like we went on some extravagant lunch date. It was Thai food in a food court that was noisy and kinda smelly. Nothing special. Commenter 5. People keep telling you why it's upsetting to your wife, and in response, you are defensive and making excuses. While your intentions were innocent, as everyone else has said, you still messed up by paying for her lunch and by not telling your wife. Learn from it going forward instead of getting defensive, because everyone isn't validating you. Reply, well, it's easy to get defensive when everyone is basically telling you, oh, you shouldn't have done this repeatedly, multiple times. I can read, I get that, I know that now. I just came here because I wanted to know if what I did was really as bad as it seems. This sub can put people on the defensive very, very easily sometimes. I do have another account that I use frequently, so I know that from seeing it myself. Edit 1. Since this is apparently so important, yes, I paid for my co-worker's lunch. I did it to break a $100 bill, and she did in fact repay me immediately afterward. I didn't include this because where I'm from, it's pretty common for one person to pay for everyone's food. If everyone is buying from the same place, then everyone else just reimburses the cash afterward. Hope this clears up stuff a little. I didn't think it would be such a huge issue. Edit 2. Also, yes, I have had lunch with coworkers before, sometimes in groups, sometimes just one-on-one. Sometimes they're with guys, and sometimes they're with female coworkers. This has never been an issue before, which is also why I didn't mention it. It wasn't important and it's not something that's bothered my wife before. Just thought I'd put in that as well. Final update. My 34 wife 37 is pissed because I bought and had lunch with a female coworker. Did I really do something wrong here? So it's been a few days since everything happened, and Karen and I have talked things out. One of the first things I asked was why she got so angry about me having lunch with my co-worker, the OP, and its responses pretty much gave me a solid idea, but I wanted to hear it from her. At first she said she didn't know, but after a while of not saying anything, she admitted that she'd been having a hard time at work lately, and given that we'd both been busy, plus hearing from her friend that she saw me with some young hot girl laughing at lunch, made her feel like shit. She admitted that she got really insecure and afraid at the thought of me carrying on with a coworker, and the fact that she was younger, and that her friend described Alice as hot all didn't help. She said that having kids plus a hard time at work, plus gaining a few pounds, nothing significant at all, made her feel threatened at the thought of someone younger, who hadn't been through all of that. She said she should have known I'd never do something like that, and that never once in our marriage had I ever given her reason to think that. I told her once again the reason why Alice and I had lunch that day, and even showed her some of the stuff I showed Alice to purchase for her SO. It didn't exactly go back to normal ASAP, but she did apologize for lashing out and not giving me an opportunity to explain myself, as well as not trusting me. Since then we've had a couple of date nights the past 5 days, left the kids with a sitter, had some dinner, etc., etc. All in all, things are back to normal and are better than before. In other news, Alice mentioned that her boyfriend loves the gear I suggested she buy for him. TLDR. Wife and I talked things out. Things are pretty awesome. Co-worker's BF loves the stuff I suggested for him. Relevant comments. Commentator 1. Communication prevails. Congrats OP commenter 2 Betty Babu. Your wife's friend sounds to me like a catty bitch. I would never say, your SO was out with a young hot chick. I would say, oh, by the way, I saw your SO at lunch yesterday, and then slowly introduce it to prevent automatic suspicion. Part of this was caused by her being a bad friend commenter 3. I'm glad this worked out, and that your wife was able to recognize and verbalize that your actions were innocent and matched against her insecurities. Good on you for practicing patience. Maybe have coworker and her man over for a BBQ beach or lake day? There's a possibility wife and coworker could become friends and then everyone wins. Stories number 2. Aita. If I asked my sister to leave my house since she refuses to watch my kids. A little background story. I 27F married my husband 32M. Have 2 kids 11F and 2M. 2 years ago I asked my little sister who was 20 at the time, and she will turn 22 in a month to come live with us and help out with kids as I needed. She was in an abuse relationship, she needed a place to stay. At first it was for her to get back on her feet since she's getting out of the situation. The initial thing was that we will pay her $200 a week to watch our 4 months old at the time, MF 6:30 a.m. till 2 p.m., and she could use my car anytime she needed to, and she wanted an afternoon job that was totally fine. She happily accepted. A month had passed, and she told her she's getting depressed being inside every day, she can't do this anymore. I told her that's okay, her mental health is very important, but she should be able to watch the kids when we need her to, like, date night, SEA. Found someone else to watch our kid. Fast forward 2 years later. She works full-time, doesn't pay any bills, doesn't help around the house, not even washing the dishes or take out the trash or cook dinner, or even buy groceries or things the house needs. Like no help at all. Last week my husband and I went out for a bit. Mind you, we asked her the weekend before if she could watch the kids and she said yes, within an hour of us being out. My husband and I received this. I just want to say this to get this off my chest. This isn't an attack and this isn't me being ungrateful. I just want you guys to try to consider my point of view. And my point of view is that I don't appreciate being used as a service whenever it's convenient for y'all. I understand this is all I'm good for. But there are some days where I don't want to come home after a 9-hour shift and watch a baby. I didn't decide to have children. You guys did, and the only person who ever appreciates me for it and only thanks me for it is my husband, so it has been building up inside me and causing resentment that my own sister will refuse to recognize my accomplishments because it's what I'm supposed to do. I appreciate staying here rent-free, and I've appreciated the opportunity being given to me, but I don't feel like I should dedicate my life to you guys. It's like, now I'm being asked to watch the kids like it's already a given, and that it's not something I can ever say no to because when I do say no I'm treated like Voldemort. It feels like an obligation when it should feel like a choice. I felt like the time frame should have been more discussed because I was under the impression I was watching him till 6:30, not 9:30. Thank you for taking the time to read this again. I'm not attacking. I just want to ask for more clarity. At this point, that is all she's good for, watching the kids for us for a few hours once or twice a week. And the accomplishment she's referring to is getting her high school diploma at the age of 21 because she dropped out of school a few months before graduating. She still uses my car when needed to go to her BF house or work. At this point I am fed up and just can't take it anymore. My husband tells me she is my sister, and I need to handle it, and he is tired of taking care of a grown-as adult. So would I be the AH if I ask her to leave my house since she refuses to watch the kids when needed? I know that is long, but feel free to ask any questions, relevant comments. OOP clarifies the relationship on her daughter, who is 11. Reply: I was a single teen mom. She's not my husband's biological daughter, he adopted her. After we got married. Commenter 1: You had a teen pregnancy and 2 baby daddies. So maybe don't be so judgmental on your sis getting a GED at 21. GED or not, she was smart enough to figure out birth control. Reply: I am not being judgmental about her getting her GED at 21. I was stating the fact that was the accomplishment. And who do you think helped her figure out birth control so she wouldn't make the same mistake as me? Commenter 2: NTA. It sounds like this arrangement is no longer working for everyone involved, and it's time for you to find other housing. Living rent-free for 2 years while she works full-time means she should have some savings. If she doesn't, that's on her. Give her a written notice to vacate, with the number of days required by state and/or local law, since she is considered a tenant. Commenter 3: NTA. She says it's a given she'll watch the kids even though you hired a nanny so she wouldn't have to watch the kids. She has enjoyed your largesse for long enough. Just don't frame it as a punishment. Tell her you're glad you were there for her when she needed it. And after thinking about her text, you can't have her feeling used. You'd like to give her 2 months to find her own place unless she'd like to leave immediately. Put it in writing, and don't back down. Don't go back and forth over what was agreed, and whether or not you're angry. She doesn't deserve your energy. She's an ungrateful ass who has started to not just take it for granted but is trying to drive a wedge between you and your husband. Only he thanks me. No, this will not do, OP. She is a drain on your resources, both emotional and financial. Let her go somewhere. She'll get all the appreciation she thinks she deserves. Commenter 4: The audacity that your sister has is outrageous, and she is absolutely ungrateful and, frankly, a parasite just mooching off of your resources. NTA. She can find her own place to live and pay her own bills. Food, internet, subscription, furniture, cleaning supplies, car note, and car insurance. Good luck to her. Update Aita. If I asked my sister to leave my house since she refuses to watch my kids, thank you everyone for your inputs. That definitely helped me the right decision for my family. Like many have suggested, I did sat her down, and I did apologized for not showing any appreciations and the fact that she felt used. And I also pointed out that her watching the kids once or twice a week, it was never last minute, is her only way of contributing to the house. And of course, like many of you predicted, she started yelling that I am attacking her, and that I only took her out of the situation was to benefit me and not her. I did confirm that the previous agreement was something I thought would benefit both of us. Not just me, I told her, since this new living arrangement is not working for anyone at this point. And since she doesn't want to watch the kids, she has 60 days to find better living arrangements. She stated she never said she didn't want to watch the kids, and I cut her off stating that as her older sister I don't want to ruin our relationship, so it's best for her to find another place to live. Because her feeling appreciated or not being used, her mental health is very important and it does matter. I even apologized for treating her as my own child, like taking care of her, taking her to all our family vacations for free. I really thought I was helping her, but now I realized I was hurting her, and now she has a great opportunity to grow and live the life she wants to, By the way, we live in San Diego, CA. Minimum rent for one bedroom is $2,000. I wish her the best of luck. Thanks again, everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. How did she react to this? Reply. She started crying and said that wasn't her intentions for things to get way out of hands. And I told her we can't go back. Everyone needs to move on. Commenter 2. That's the perfect response. Your sister will face the real world and enjoy her life like she wanted. Commenter 3. She's in for the rudest awakening of her life. Don't cave, OP. The text she sent to you and your husband was delusional. I was insulted for y'all because that was a sweet deal. No one ever offered me such a sweet deal. Though I wish they had. Congrats, OP. You're about to get your house back. Just in time for the holidays. Stories number 3. My parents are demanding that I still do all of my chores, even though I no longer live at home, so I 18F am a college student who started living in the dorms. While I still sometimes go home to do laundry, I am rarely home. I haven't been home in 3 weeks. The main reason I live in the dorms is because I don't yet have my license. I have an auditory delay that makes it hard for me to react to any noise, and it's something I've struggled with for my whole life. My parents and I don't always see eye to eye, and during my senior year we got into a major argument, and they told me, "Fine, you want to be an adult. You're living in the dorms, and let's see how you feel when you don't have us to clean up after you." They pay for my dorm. However, most of my tuition is covered by scholarships, and I have full coverage all the way up until my doctorate. They chose to pay for dorm living. I told them I had a plan to make it to class, but they wanted to teach me a lesson. So back to my story. When I first came home, I noticed that the internet was blocked on my devices when I went to take a test. This had only ever happened if I didn't do my chores or we got into an argument when I asked them why it was blocked. They told me it was because I hadn't done my chores. These were my weekly chores every week: clean bathroom, yard work, clear the whole backyard of any leaves, sticks, rocks. They are very strict about this. Clean the downstairs cabinets. Dust every surface of the house including fans. Clean the laundry room includes mopping, dusting, sweeping, etc. Empty the dishwasher and drainer. Clean the kitchen. I have a brother who I used to share the bathroom with who lives at home. He's also a freshman in college, and recently we got into an argument about the chores. Chores are due every Friday by 7 p.m. I get home at around 2 or 5 p.m. Dinner is at 5:30, 6 p.m. Meaning I have to do about 3 hours of work in an hour. Family dinners are mandatory and I will be punished if I don't eat with them. I asked for an extension to 8:30 so I could actually do the chores, and they said it was the expectation of their support. I have no issues helping around the house, I really don't, but it hurts when I'm constantly told I have to give up my dream of starting my own business because of you. Or, we have to love you. We don't have to support you financially. Your friends won't be there if we cut you off and threw you out. Only family will. Only we will. And when I just don't have the time to finish all that work and my own school work, I get blamed. I just can't help but feel bitter about the whole situation. I get they need help. I really do, but I guess I just wish they didn't blame me for all their problems just because I had the nerve to be born. And I got in trouble with them because I did the full dishwasher and went up to go do HW, and they yelled at me because I left some for my brother. When my older brother had a similar living situation, they didn't make him do anything. Of course he helped, but it wasn't a threat or shaming him for being born it. I also have weekend assignments, so if I don't do my chores, I don't get internet connection for the whole weekend. If I sleep in and miss church, I don't get internet connection. Since apparently I've been very confusing. Here's the timeline of events. I go to school, then I go home on Fridays. Last time was 3 weeks ago. So the whole time before that I've been going home to do laundry. 3 weeks ago my parents dropped me off early because of a fight, and told me they didn't want to see my face, and this week I was expected to come home. We were talking on the phone and I asked if I could stay this weekend because I didn't want to be a bother, and had an in-person exam this Friday. They got upset because they had expected me to come home, and now they have to plan around me not being there to clean up. Now I've made this post, I should clarify I'm Hispanic, and just saying no isn't usually an option. Like I've said before, I have no problem with doing the chores. It's how their language and attitudes towards any mistakes or wrenches I've apparently thrown in the plans they didn't tell me about. Edit 2. I do want the people reading this to know I am very aware that I am extremely privileged to have parents who pay for me to live in the dorms, no matter the reason. That fact is not lost on me. I'm so sorry if this is confusing. It's like 2 a.m. and I've been up late working on a project due at 10 a.m. So my bad if my writing comes off as disjointed and messy. Comments? Commenter 1. While I still sometimes go home to do laundry, find another way to do laundry and don't go home. Tell them you are too busy finishing assignments. Commenter 2. NTA. Okay, your parents are emotionally manipulative. That's abuse. You would be better off not going home at all and making plans FPR how to pay for dorm living if they cut you off. It's beyond unreasonable to expect someone to do all of those chores in the time frame they have given you. They are setting you up for failure and blaming you for it. This isn't a normal situation. Most parents are supportive and encouraging. Commenter 3. NTA. Your parents sure are. Pay attention to this section. We have to love you. We don't have to support you financially. Your friends won't be there if we cut you off and threw you out. Only family will. Only we will. What's here is classical emotional blackmail and of highest pedigree. It uses fear, obligation, and guilt to manipulate you. The "we cut you off and throw you out" is the threat. Obey or no money. The obligation is framed as "we have to love you," suggesting that their love is an obligation and you should feel thankful for getting it. That's not how love works. The guilt part is blended in 2 parts. Claiming your friends aren't there is an isolation tactic to undermine your willingness to get outside help. The "only we will" is an attempt to guilt-trip you to feel grateful that there is at least someone, the family, that looks after you. The same people who mistreat you act as they are your only option. Look up Susan Forward's FOG model for details about how emotional blackmailing works. Since you have a scholarship, explore your options to live independently without your parents' financial support. In addition, you might want to talk with a student counselor about the situation back at home. Just to get a professional opinion. Commenter 4. NTA. But your parents they are making completely unreasonable demands while you are trying to finish studies. I would suggest speaking to your university. They may have support for students in trouble. Your parents are financially, emotionally, and mentally abusive. Stories number 4. Aita for including my family's business in my legal disclosure letter to my ex-husband. I 35F separated from my ex-husband 39M 2 years ago. The final straw in our marriage was his inappropriate friendship with my mother. Even after our separation, they stayed extremely close, still training together at the gym. My mom doing his cleaning, cooking, laundry, him having sleepovers at their home every other weekend, and basically continuing as if she was his partner instead of my mother. When we first separated, I sent a financial disclosure letter through my lawyer. My dad came to me furious, saying he'd disown me if I didn't withdraw it because it would financially ruin him, and my ex would declare bankruptcy. Out of guilt and pressure, I pulled the letter, paid off my lawyer, and sat in silence for 2 years. Those 2 years have been absolute torture. I couldn't breathe without feeling controlled. I lost my family because of their ongoing loyalty to my ex. I even begged my family to do counseling with me, because I couldn't wrap my head around why my mother and ex remained so unhealthily close. Nothing changed. Fast forward 2 years. I finally reissued another disclosure letter. I was patient and gave him 8 weeks instead of the required 30 days. His response? Vague, incomplete, and deliberately evasive. He didn't provide proper statements or transactions, but suddenly claimed my parents had lent him over $500,000. Meanwhile, I was set to walk away from the marriage with less than I came in with. Here's where it gets tricky. I know my ex was a director of my family business 2 years ago, after I foolishly retracted that first disclosure. Things were shuffled around and names removed, roles changed. Now I'm staring at a claim that he's borrowed $500,000 from my parents with no proof of where it went. No statements, no paper trail, nothing. So, I added my family's business into the disclosure process this time. I need answers. I need transparency. I want to know where this 500K supposedly went and why I'm being gaslit into silence. The guilt is real. My family has already threatened to disown me once. I've been made to feel like I'm betraying them for pushing forward. But on the other hand, how is it fair that my ex, who destroyed my marriage with my mother's inappropriate involvement, could walk away with hidden money while I lose everything? So, Reddit. Am I the asshole for reissuing the legal disclosure letter and including my family's business, even though it exposes things they clearly don't want me to? Comments? Commenter 1. How's your dad feel that his wife is spending so much quality time with his son-in-law? Commenter 2. Where do you live? This is not how financial disclosure works. If your ex worked for your parents, his tax returns and pay stubs will show that along with his annual income, doesn't matter if they rearrange the internal structure of the company. There's no way to hide your family's business, and they certainly are not going to go bankrupt if one of their employees, even if they are an in-law, gets divorced. Get a better attorney, NTA. Reply, that's the problem. He chose not to disclose anything but papers written up, stating he had borrowed the funds from the family business. But no tax returns were provided. ECAT commenter 2 reply. No court in the U.S. would just accept a letter from either side. Both parties have to file forms and related documents. It's full financial disclosure, including daily living expenses. If you filed jointly on your taxes, then your tax returns will show both of your annual income. Commenter 3 NTA. Sounds like he's the son they always wanted. Do not feel guilty for taking care of yourself, because your parents sure don't care about you. Commenter 4. They're making you feel guilty because they're afraid of what you'll find. I recommend you also hire a private investigator and a forensic accountant. This is incredibly shady. NTA reply. I was definitely thinking of getting a forensic accountant involved. Stories number 5. My 26M girlfriend 24F openly does not agree with my mom's 62F choices. Am I unreasonable to break up with her over this? My girlfriend Rachel and I have been together for 8 months. We recently made a trip out west for a little over a week's vacation. Our last stop was paying a visit to my parents. This was the first time my girlfriend met them. We stayed over their place for a couple of days before returning home. When we arrived at my parents' house, my mom said that she got our room ready, and to go ahead, make ourselves at home and relax, and go in the hot tub if we wanted. Rachel acted surprised and said something like, "You mean we get to stay in our own bedroom together? Wow, my parents would never allow that unless we're married." My mom laughed and said that they were thinking of taking us out for dinner later tonight, if we would like, and just let her know when we'd like to go. We did our own thing for a few hours, fooled around like sneaky teenagers too. I felt good about being back home with Rachel. We all drove together to the restaurant and chatted about what we did on vacation and reminisced about the neighborhood. At dinner, Rachel started talking about marriage and kids and said something like, "I have to have kids before I hit 30. It doesn't matter for guys though, but we women can't procrastinate." It was a little awkward. I wasn't sure if Rachel was just nervous or didn't realize my parents had me when they were older, or just didn't care. My parents didn't say much, but I know that they weren't particularly impressed by Rachel. When we got back to our own room for the night, I asked Rachel why she brought that up, and didn't she know that my mom had me older? She said she knew, and that she doesn't agree with my mom's priorities, and that my parents are too liberal. The next day we returned back to the other coast. I love my parents, and my mom is amazing. I like Rachel's frankness. I always found it refreshing. But she just came across tactless to me. I'm kind of bugged by Rachel's behavior. It's weird, but I feel like her not respecting my mom means she does not respect me. I think this is grounds for breaking up. But I am not sure if I'm being irrational. Any advice or thoughts? TLDR. My girlfriend looks down on my mom's choices and does not care that she was rude. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. OMG. Why are we allowed to stay in a room together? Fools around with you in your parents' home. Sleeps in same room with you. Geez OP, your parents are just too liberal. Honestly, where does this girl get off? Commenter 2. In a room in OP's too liberal parents' home. Commenter 3 are OP. Read this comment like 10 times. It is absolutely baffling to me that your girlfriend would dare call your parents too liberal when she was reaping the benefits of them being too liberal while she was there. Your girlfriend is rude, and I would feel embarrassed if my SO treated my parents that way. Commenter 4. Your girlfriend is rude, and I would feel embarrassed if my SO treated my parents that way. Forget about the too liberal comment. She scolded his mom for having a late-in-life baby. She should be thanking her for bringing him into the world, not condemning her. And that's aside from how crazy rude it is to comment on someone else's reproductive choices. Period. Commenter 5. My parents didn't say much, but I know that they weren't particularly impressed by Rachel. I'm reasonably close to your parents in age, and I'm not particularly impressed either. She said she knew, and that she doesn't agree with my mom's priorities, and that my parents are too liberal. Condemning another person's priorities from which one directly benefits, in this case getting to sleep in the same room with you, is pretty much the definition of hypocrisy. Also, I find this judgmental to the point of arrogance, and her biological clock shtick is outright disrespectful. If you stay with Rachel, this is only going to get worse. Commenter 6. Your real problem is that you and Rachel appear to come from different backgrounds in terms of values, and that she clearly believes her family values are inherently superior. She was lightly rude to your parents in person based on this account, and really rude in private when speaking about your mother's choices to you. It's clear she only respects people who agree with her. Think about how that's going to play out as your relationship becomes more serious. Update. My 26M girlfriend 24F openly does not agree with my mom's 62F choices. Am I unreasonable to break up with her over this? Thank you all for the comments. I was pretty surprised by the volume. I was trying to downplay my concerns about the incidents at my parents'. I met up with Rachel at her place before maybe heading for dinner together. I let her know that I wanted to talk about what she said about my mom during vacation. I'm just going to provide a dialogue about what was exchanged to make it easier for me and hopefully less confusing. Me. I'm still trying to understand why you said what you said at dinner and why you are in such disagreement with my mom. Rachel. It's so weird how good-looking your dad is still. He could have been a model when he was younger. Your mom is not anywhere in the same league as your dad. Me. I don't understand what you're talking about. Rachel. I think it's odd that they are together. It's creepy. Me. My parents love each other. I don't get the problem you have. I think that you purposefully brought up having kids earlier than my mom to criticize her. Rachel. Well, I don't like your mom. I don't have to like her. The rest of conversation was more pulling teeth. I had already given thought about what happened last weekend, and I guess I share a chapter or two from my parents' book. I want to feel confident about my partner. Rachel gives me doubt, not comfort. A lot of comments mentioned that I may have been oblivious, and what I initially perceived as frankness was likely always tactlessness, that I may have not noticed it was tactlessness because I was in agreement. I think these were factors, but I also didn't agree with Rachel always on her opinions. I just didn't disagree either. I broke up with Rachel last night. Her parting words were, "A mama's boy is just plain ugly, and you're cursed with your mom's looks." Edit. So I rang my parents to let them know that I broke up with Rachel. I spoke with my dad first, and he said, "You made a good decision. She was dumber than a box of hair." Then I spoke with my mom, and she asked why I ended it. I told her that she was too irrational and contradictory. She wasn't convinced that was the entire reason, so I told her everything, since she has a pretty thick skin. She had a real good laugh, and said that Rachel's just a mean girl. And she's glad that it didn't take me longer than 8 months to work that one out. And she also told my dad that he still got it. TLDR. Broke up with Rachel. She was tactless to the end. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Her parting words were, "A mama's boy is just plain ugly, and you're cursed with your mom's looks." It so seldom happens that our life decisions are validated so immediately and unambiguously. Onward. Commenter 2. That line is so much cringe I can barely stand it. She's trying to insult him in verse? UTF. Commenter 3. To be fair, that was a sick burn. Reply, hey. I thought so too. I actually have been laughing over it. I agree that her last words were a favor to me. I won't be second-guessing this breakup. She sent me a bunch of texts today saying she didn't mean anything and to give her another chance to explain. I'm tired of how contradictory she is, and I don't feel obligated to listen to another explanation. She's already crossed the line of no return. Commenter 4, good riddance, really. One thing, though, that I think is worth for you to consider, no need to even reply to me, just for you to think about, really. After your first post, I was left thinking that she seemed like one of those people who will bring up things she doesn't agree with just to be antagonistic. I still think she is that kind of person, and that it is great for you to have broken up with her. But her parting words, and the fact that she seems to flat out resent your mom, and not your dad, make me wonder if, in the time you have been together, you have not done said stuff that had made her feel that way. If you have, that is also not necessarily a bad thing. She may just be insecure, and hearing you talk positively about your mom made her jealous, resent her, which again says it is a good thing you broke up with her, but there is the chance that you are too attached to your mom, and that it shows in the way you talk, act, and that is why she felt this way. Even if that was the case, the way Rachel handled it was shitty, and you are still better off. But it is worth taking your time to figure out if there is a chance you may be overly attached to your mom, just so that you don't let it have a negative impact in any future relationships that may be worth pursuing. Reply, I live on the East Coast, over 2,000 miles away from my parents. We don't have an extremely close relationship, but I email them often and call them once a week or every other week, depending. My mom and I share the same profession, and my parents used to live in the same city I reside. Maybe Rachel viewed those commonalities as my being too influenced by my mom. But I feel like it would be a stretch. Commenter 5, it's so weird how good-looking your dad is still. He could have been a model when he was younger. Your mom is not anywhere in the same league as your dad. Dear girlfriends of the world, never call your boyfriend's mama ugly. What the actual fuck? You dodged a bullet, OP. Commenter 6. Has she ever spoken to another human being before? Stories number 6. I'm moving out tomorrow. Husband doesn't know I found out that he's having an affair. When I found out about the affair, it devastated me. I'll be gone tomorrow when he gets home from work, and he has no idea it's coming. My update is that I'm now divorced. It has been a month since my divorce became final. I moved out while my ex-husband M39 was at work, the day after I wrote my first post. In my country, you have to be separated for 1 year before you can get a divorce. Then my ex-husband dragged the process out for 2 years because he didn't want a divorce, even though he was the one having an affair with a colleague. I moved out because my ex-husband inherited our home before we met, so I wouldn't have had any right to it in the divorce. I had to leave. I haven't seen or talked with my ex-husband since I moved out, and I don't plan to ever again. During the divorce process, my solicitor communicated with his, even though my ex-husband wanted to see me and explain. I didn't care to confront him about the affair, get any details, or hear whatever explanation he was going to give. Divorce is only no fault, so the affair made no difference during the divorce process anyways. We had been married for 10 years when I left, but he broke my heart, and I don't need to see or talk to him again. I have a life without him. That's my update, as boring as it was. If you left a supportive comment, thank you for doing that. Comments. Commenter 1. I hope you're able to find peace and happiness. Commenter 2. Sounds like a great update to me. I'm so proud of you for being so strong. You're about to build a great life. Commenter 3. It's not boring at all. It's commendable and deeply refreshing and reassuring to read. So many women accept the notion that having a romantic partner means tolerating suffering and disrespect, and that doesn't have to be true. I hope you have a beautiful full life with everything you deserve and more. Commenter 4. I like that you refused to let him try to justify his behavior by not speaking to him. That had to bother him. Good luck and peace to you. Stories number 7. Try to drive me out of my rental house? How does getting your rent doubled and getting fired sound? Years ago, I rented a duplex from a very nice owner. He was honest and reasonable. I put a healthy security deposit down and moved in. Unfortunately, he was not my day-to-day contact. That was the delightful and charming Giselle. She was the on-site landlord. I found out later that she was a tenant who the owner made an arrangement with. In return for cutting her rent in half a sweet gig, she collected and deposited the rental checks, arranged repairs, and handled any other day-to-day things. The neighborhood had about 5 duplexes owned by this man. Giselle hated me from day one, and what's more, she lived in the other half of the duplex. You know all the nightmare petty landlord stuff you see on this sub? Giselle ticked off all the boxes. HOA-style Karen obsessed with the rules, yelled at my friends for parking an inch over on her side of the duplex. My phone or doorbell rang if my place wasn't stone quiet a minute after quiet time. Rental checks I dropped in the same mail slot I always did somehow got lost. Appliances and things not fixed in anything resembling a timely manner, etc. It was more annoying than awful. I told myself I could live with it, as I was going to be moving closer to my job after my lease ran out. Later, I found out why she hates me. She had wanted a friend of hers to move into the duplex I got, but the owner said no because her credit check was awful and mine was sparkling, so she just wanted to make my life miserable out of pure spite. As the end of the lease drew closer, I noticed my water heater was leaking. I dried the floor around it and then put some towels down. Then I emailed Giselle I had wised up and started a digital trail by then. No response. A week later, I re-forwarded the email with a friendly, "You may have missed this, but this could be a real problem." No response. Another email with, "I had a friend who is a plumber look at it, and he recommended immediately." Ut. Finally, she responded with, "I will look into it," and nothing else. She was just trying to run the clock out on me. It had been about a month now, and I was just a few weeks away from moving out. I saw Giselle watering her flowers and approached her and mentioned it. She blew me off but finished the convo with a threat. "I hope you're keeping it clean around there. I'm a stickler when it comes to the final inspection. If you want to get any of your deposit back, you better be ready to pass a white glove inspection." Okay then. That's how we're going to play it? Fine, I was trying to figure out how I would get petty revenge. About a week later, right before my last rent check was due, I happened to see the owner in the neighborhood. Giselle was nowhere to be found. And that's when it struck me how I could make all this work. I went out to say hello and tell him thanks for renting to me. That I appreciated that. He was very friendly. Said he was sorry I was leaving, etc. And if I needed anything to let him know, checkmate. I asked him if he had a few minutes to come in and do the security deposit inspection. He said sure, and we went into my place together. As we were walking around looking at things, he was all positive. "Yup, looks great. Yup, no issues there." Then we came to the water heater. I paused dramatically and gravely said, "I hope we can come to some kind of understanding about the floor around the water heater." I opened the closet doors and showed him. I told him what I'd been doing to fight the leak. I pulled up the sopping wet towels I had put down the night before. And I told him I have had experience with mold and that it was nasty stuff. He got quiet and said, "Have you told Giselle about this?" "Why, yes, I did. And here are copies of the emails I sent to her." He read them and then noticed I had kept them in a file folder. He looked at me and said, "Are there other things that haven't been fixed?" I showed him a few other emails I had collected. He got beet red in the face and said, "Okay, I think with what I have seen, I'm fine with releasing your full security deposit." In that moment it struck me. I had one more rent check due $750. How about instead of me writing you a check for $750 and you writing me a check for $500, I just write you a check for $250 and call it even? He shrugged and said sure. He signed the paperwork and then left. A few days later, I dropped my check for $250 in the mail slot. Later that evening, Giselle pounded on my door, foaming at the mouth about how I didn't write a full check. She can get me evicted if I don't write a check for the full amount right freaking now. I explained conveniently, omitting that the owner had done the inspection, that $750 less my security deposit of $500 was the $250. Giselle's eyes widened as her brain tried to comprehend what I had said. She nearly exploded, yelling at me about, "That's not how things are done," and "You have to obey the rules like everyone else," and "She has final say because she does the inspections." Friends, she literally had spittle flying out of her mouth. She was so enraged. I calmly told her that the owner had done the inspection and signed off on the payment arrangement and told her to talk to him and to get off my porch and quit bothering me, and I very slowly closed the door on her. Again, her brain froze, and she went into lockdown trying to process what I had just said. That was an image I'll remember forever. Before I moved out, the owner came by to ask if he could come in and fix the water heater for the next tenant. I said sure. As he was working, we talked a little and he mentioned that his daughter was moving into my place and that she was going to take over the on-site landlord duties. I asked about Giselle. The owner simply said she's going to be moving out. She decided she couldn't afford to pay the full rent anymore. Comments, commenter 1. Friends, she literally had spittle flying out of her mouth, she was so enraged. And yet, she was destined to be even angrier. Well played, commenter 2. He read them and then noticed I had kept them in a file folder. LOL. Perfect use of props in your presentation. Nothing malicious here. He just happened to notice. I love the way your mind works. And that the landlord listened. That's not usually the case in these situations. Commenter 3. I believe if a file folder is involved, it is the intergalactic sign that shit has been sideways for a little while. I'd wager Giselle probably didn't get her security deposit back either. Commenter 4. And you didn't even have to do anything except tell the truth. Stories number 8. Aita for not giving my stepdaughter's old room back to her. My husband has 2 kids from a previous relationship who are F20 and M23. When we married, they had already moved out of our house. We have a baby together, M1, who now sleeps in his own room, which is stepdaughter's old room that we turned into baby room. Now all of a sudden, they both want to move back in. Stepdaughter lost her job and can't afford her house anymore. Stepson is done with college and recently moved back to our city. I said they are both welcome back, but they have to share stepson's room. There is no other room to put baby's stuff, and I'm not gonna put it all in a storage or something like that. That's baby's room now. They are adults, and they moved out, and I wasn't gonna keep the rooms empty for them. Now they are angry and saying I'm an asshole. Update. ATA for not giving stepdaughter's old room back to her? Post-update, I decided to just tell my husband everything they have been saying. I didn't want to say something originally because I didn't want to cause problems between them, but they are old enough to know exactly what they are doing, so they should also be prepared for the consequences. I'm going through a lot lately. I'm still struggling with PPD that just doesn't seem to go away. I told my husband that I will never ask him to choose between me and his kids. But I have to choose between me and his kids. And I choose me. My mental health is important. His kids haven't even moved in, but they are already here all the time and they keep arguing and nagging and pushing me to my limits. And I can't worry about them sharing a room. I have enough problems already. I told him I'm going to stay in a hotel for a few days because I need to be away from him and his kids. This includes the little one. I just need a few days off from being a parent. He didn't let me leave and instead took the baby and left. He returned about an hour ago. He had bought some takeout for me. He asked how I'm doing and said the baby is with his sister and is doing well. He gave me the keys he has given his kids and said he took them away, and they can't just walk in ever again and need permission from now on. He said I should have just said something sooner instead of waiting until I get to my breaking point. He is going to help his kids find a cheap apartment and some roommates, and he will help them with rent for a few months until they can afford to pay it themselves. They are not happy, but he is not willing to give them more. He and our baby will stay with his sister for a night or two, so I can get some rest. But if I want them back sooner, I can just call them and he will return. We are finally going to repurpose stepson's room as well. It will just be a guest room for now, but he wants to buy some bookshelves as well, so we can have a library too. Well, I guess that's all. Comments, commenter 1. I'm very glad your husband stood up for you and baby. Quite frankly, adult kids need to understand they can't keep running home every time life gets hard. Commenter 2. I was worried there for a minute. When you said he wouldn't let you leave, and he took the baby. But he took charge and had your back. Great update. Focus in yourself, OP. Do try to find some balance. See a doctor about that PPD. You don't have to wait until you're in a deep low. To find professional help, The sooner you get help, the sooner you can get out of that low. Commenter 3. I am so glad to hear this update. Choosing you is the best thing you have done. If not, baby and husband will also suffer later. Not to say how much hurt you will go through. Being a mom is one part of you, not all of you. Well done, take care. Commenter 4. Yes, it's very hard to be a young adult now, and probably always has been. I was a young adult half a century ago. And it was quite hard then, especially for a young unmarried woman who was raised to expect a husband would support her for life. But still I was on my own at 18 by virtue of being kicked out. It seems to me nicely generous for Dad to help his young adult kids with housing this much. Hopefully it will help ease the kids into becoming fully functioning adults. And this way, there won't be any fights with the parents about chores or parties, or coming home very late at night waking up the household. The kids get to practice adulating while still having a safety net. Sounds like a win-win to me. Stories number 9. My girlfriend 22F has an issue with the fact that I 26M walk to work. I feel like I'm going crazy. So I just wanted to check whether I'd somehow completely misjudged this. Literally the only thing to explain here, I've been seeing my girlfriend for 3 months. Exclusively for 2. I don't drive as I graduated university and moved to London, where a car isn't needed, and have only just moved back to my more rural hometown. I'm currently working in an office which is slightly awkwardly located. If I get the bus, it's 2 separate buses, so the journey takes a total of about 55 minutes. If I walk, it's 1 hour 10 minutes. I enjoy walking a lot when it isn't raining, and I take quite a scenic route. So I enjoy getting my headphones in with Spotify and just enjoying the stroll in the mornings and evenings. I enjoy it more than a cramped bus, and find it to be relaxing and a fresh start to the day. I mentioned in passing that I walk to work to my girlfriend and she keeps bringing it up, saying that if I don't drive I should stop being weird and get public transport like everyone else. She thinks it's too long to just walk each day and she just finds it weird. She said she would be too embarrassed to tell her friends that I walk to work. That's all I can explain. There's no real other reason, but she genuinely seems to have an issue with it. Am I missing something here? Has she just got a weird problem with the concept of walking? TLDR. I walk to work each day and my girlfriend appears to be struggling with the concept. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. What is weird is her having an issue with something completely healthy. Commenter 2. Not to mention that public transport isn't exactly reliable in all corners of the world. I've heard stories about British public transport from Brits and my parents who were there as tourists. So no important stuff like, showing up at work on time. Commenter 3. Plus, walking is free. Over the course of a year. That is a decent amount of money saved. Commenter 4. This might just be a one-off weird opinion of her, or she might have larger issues. Ask her what exactly her problem is with you walking to work. Tell her the reasons you made that decision, and that you'd rather not hear any criticism on it from now on. That being said, you could cut that 1 hour 10 to about 15-20 minutes with a bicycle. Not relevant to the issue, I know, but as an engineer I worship efficiency. Commenter 5. While I disagree with the way the girlfriend is approaching the issue with OP, I can't believe that the walk itself is the problem. Maybe she wants him to get a car now that he lives rurally. OP. Does your girlfriend always have to come to you or pick you up to spend time together? That can be draining. Or maybe she feels that by not biking or driving, you're significantly cutting into your time together. You are 100% in the right to walk to work and enjoy it. I just think that finding the real problem would be better for your relationship than the righteous indignation approach most commenters are taking. Maybe a bike is a potential compromise. Commenter 6. Guarantee she wants you to pass your driving test, get a car. But rather than discuss it with you, she hopes that by shaming you, you'll run off and organize it yourself. If you're happy to walk, then walk. Update. I didn't quite expect the amount of attention that post got a week or so ago anyway, just to update you guys on what happened. 3 nights ago we were hanging out at her house and decided to go for dinner at a pub, which is a 5-minute walk from her house. Nowhere fancy, I said to her, "Shall we head off?" To which she replied, "Well, have you called a taxi?" I pointed out that it's literally 5 minutes away, and it's quicker to walk there. And it was a nice evening. She then told me that walking to places is undignified, and that I can embarrass myself with that kind of thing if I want to, but she won't. Then after some thinking about her immaturity, and the fact that I find her a bit boring, I told her that I don't think we're going to work out and she has some growing up to do. Then I walked the 5 kilometers home, because fuck you Annie, walking's nice. TLDR. Dumped anti-walking maniac, walked home. Relevant comments. Commentaire 1. Her online dating profile will read, I like long, dignified taxi rides by the beach. Commenter 2. And short rides to the pub. Commenter 3. I'd be so embarrassed to tell the taxi driver I was going that short of a distance. Commenter 4. I used to drive Uber and I used to get requests all the time for like 1-2 mile rides. They, in the busiest part of town. Oh, at the busiest hour 1, there's a base pay, so a half mile costs the same as 1 mile 2. I guarantee you will get there faster walking than in a car navigating rush hour on one-way streets. Commenter 5, so good you walked away from that relationship. Commenter 6, he probably should have taken a taxi this time. Would have been faster, HRP. This would have been the funniest fucking shit ever if he had actually called a cab after breaking up with her. Commenter 7 limousine. This is hilarious, it's the Seinfeld episode we never got. Stories number 10. I told my ex that his new GF told me to back TF off already? Hiya there, I'm in a bit of a pickle and don't really know what to do here. A few days ago, my 30th ex's 32 and new girlfriend 27F texted me out of the blue and told me, first politely and then not so much, to back the fuck off and not contact my ex anymore cause, apparently it's disrespectful and I should be over it by now. Some context here. My ex and I broke up roughly 6 years ago, but we are still friends. Why? 'Cause we didn't have a reason not to. Our breakup wasn't a dramatic one. Just two people who'd been together since their late teens realizing that they wanted different things in life. But since we still got along great, and he had his daughter, my niece, who I basically helped raise, we decided to stay friends. The reason his girlfriend's message surprised me as much as it did is that A, it came really out of the blue. I didn't even know she had my number. B, she has absolutely zero reason to be suspicious or anything. My ex and I still hang out, yes, but always with either my niece or other friends, and on occasion, we go to school events for my niece. Like, when she has a performance or something, I genuinely don't think I've done anything with him one-on-one since before our breakup, I think. The most one-on-one he and I ever do is when he drops off or picks up my niece. She has a room at my place, in case that matters, and we wait for her to get her things. But that's all. Also, his girlfriend and I have met before at my niece's and then my ex's birthday, and she was nice both times. We didn't talk much, just regular, "Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. That's a lovely dress. Bye." So I didn't think she had any issues with me. On top of that, I'm dating someone new, too, so yeah. I'm not sure what her deal is at all. And when she texted me, my arse was halfway to giving my ex a ring and telling him to maybe have a chat with his girlfriend cause something is definitely wrong. But another part of me really doesn't want to interfere with his relationship like that. My ex is a good dude, and from what my niece told me and from what I've seen at the 2 birthdays, he really adores her. Like, he genuinely gets puppy eyes when he looks at her, which that stoic arseman never does. He deserves to be this happy. He really does, and most importantly, my niece likes her too. That wasn't the case with the 2 other girlfriends he'd had since we broke up. So this is a huge issue I need to consider too. Telling him would put all of this in jeopardy, but like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm defo not going to cut contact with either my niece or my ex just 'cause she wants me to. No fucking way. But she was rather insistent on the matter. So I don't think she'll leave it alone either. My flatmate is team tell him and get it over with. But she's, with love, a bit of a prick, so I'm hesitant to take her word on anything. Relevant comments. Commenter, Error 1. He deserves to know if his girlfriend is talking to his friends like that or making accusations of flirting with him. Tell him, reply, that is the wildest part. She didn't even accuse me of flirting with him. Like, if she had been able to genuinely tell me what upset her, then I could have cleared the air. But she really just wants me gone 'cause she thinks exes have no business being friends. But yeah, I think I'll have to give him a call tonight. Even if he does nothing, at least he knows. Commenter 2. Send him the screenshots. But tell him he can step back from being a friend but not to take your niece away from you. This kind of stupid childish drama is not good for a kid. Reply, oh Defo. Not that I think he would drag my niece into this. He's not the type. Also, I'm pretty much the closest thing to a maternal figure she has and have been ever since she was like 2, I think. So yeah, doubt he'd take that from her. And he knows I'd fist fight him if he dared to try, lol. But I'll defo make sure to mention it. Commenter 3. One of my non-negotiable is somebody whose ex still comes around the family. But I make sure to make that known at the beginning of the relationship. She shouldn't have came at you the way she did, but sometimes, when it comes to an ex, you don't realize how disrespectful some of the things you two are doing can be seen by the new partners. Reply, I guess that's fine, but in that case it's really silly that she's only coughing that up now. I think they've been together for a year and a half. And she's dating someone with a kid, too. Isn't an ex to be expected in that scenario? Granted, our case is a little special 'cause my niece's mother bailed and I'm there instead, but still, aside from that, I can see that disrespectful thing in general, but really not with my ex and I. Genuinely, the most we do is hug, hello, and goodbye, and that's normal in my country, as in, I hugged his girlfriend, too. Aside from that, I guess I usually pop by on Christmas for an hour or two 'cause of my niece. But outside of that, there's nothing that I wouldn't do with any other friend, too. I do think she knows that. However, 'cause when I asked her to give me examples or a situation where I could have made her uncomfortable, she couldn't say anything. Just that I bothered her. Update 1, Hiya again. I thought I'd give you guys a little update in case any of you are interested. First, I did end up calling my ex after I came back from work last night. I was insanely nervous 'cause I still felt and still do feel bad about rocking the boat. But yeah, you guys were right. It should be his decision if he wants to cut me off, not his GF's. Now, after some regular chatter, I went in and told him what happened, and even read him some of the messages his girlfriend had sent me. He didn't say much, as I did not that I expected him to. That man has a daily average of 15 words, 25 if he's feeling very chatty, and mostly just listened quietly. I couldn't gauge his reaction. So I kind of ended up rambling and mentioning some of the things you guys had advised me to. You know how he can step back if that's what he needs. I'd respect his decision on that, but how I'd appreciate it if we could keep my niece out of it and all that. The latter part is kind of where he spoke up, mostly to snort, "You idiot." And then he told me he already knew that she'd texted me 'cause my boyfriend told him they're friends and co-workers. My boyfriend apparently noticed that I was more upset than I wanted to let on, and asked my ex to call me 'cause something happened between me and my ex's girlfriend, which makes sense. BTW, I've asked my boyfriend if my behavior with my ex was ever uncomfortable or inappropriate after the GF texted me, just to make sure I wasn't doing something wrong without being aware of it. And I have been stewing over this mess for like nigh a week. So yeah, not surprised my boyfriend noticed something was up. My ex chose to wait until I said something myself before breaching the topic, though. My boyfriend didn't tell him what exactly happened, but my ex sort of figured it was something like her telling me to cut contact. He then once again told me that I'm an idiot and that I should have told him immediately. 'Cause this wasn't on the two of them, so he and his GF talked about this before, even before they officially got together, and he'd made it very clear that there was no way in hell he'd be cutting me off 'cause I've been his friend before. I was his girlfriend and I've stayed his friend for long after that, and 'cause I'm basically my niece's mum, or the closest thing she has to a mum, so before they started dating, he told her that she'd have to be cool with that. He'd understand if she wasn't, but he'd not change his mind 'cause I've done the legwork and she hasn't now. According to him, she was absolutely fine with it, and even told him that she really liked me and wanted to get to know me more after the birthdays I mentioned prior. So he doesn't know what has gotten into her. I asked him if she mentioned something else at a later time, like that something I did or said made her uncomfortable or feel insecure. But he said no. She also didn't hint at anything, and yes. I asked multiple times with examples just to make sure, cause, respectfully, my ex isn't great at taking hints at all. His brain is wired strictly forwards, so anything slickly obscure does not ring any bells in his wee head. As we chattered on, still trying to work out what could have ticked her off, he suddenly got really quiet and I was like, "Dude, you there?" And he then said that he may have an idea what did it for her. He didn't tell me what though, 'cause he said it's a conversation he needs to have with her first. So I didn't ask further. He did assure me that it was nothing I did though. We pretty much left it at that, and he told me he'd have a chat with her and see what's up and, depending on what it is, he'd let me know. So now we wait. Oh, and we both kind of hope that she left it at contacting me and didn't talk to my niece about this. She's kind of been in a funk all week but keeps telling us it's nothing, so we kind of assumed it was hormones and or stress and told her to take it easy. But since the dates of her bad mood and the GF messaging me line up, we're a bit worried that she mentioned something or asked my niece to cut me off or whatever. Anyway, thanks for the advice you guys gave me and for telling me to just get it over with. I genuinely don't think I would have done it otherwise. If I hear anything interesting, I'll let you guys know, but until then, I think this is it. Thanks. Edit more info. I think a lot of people are confused by my niece being my niece and also my ex's kid. Sorry, I should have reiterated that before things got muddled. A short stack of facts. My ex, 32, is a teen dad. He had my niece while he was still in the equivalent of high school. He and I, 30th, got together roughly a year after she was born, but he only introduced me to her when she was 2.5. Since I was still pretty young then, I wasn't super comfortable with being called Mom, so my niece ended up calling me Auntie my name. This stuck and she still calls me Aunt today, and I call her niece. But we're not related by blood. Her bio mom is not and has never been in the picture. I did all the mum things, from potty training her to seeing most of her firsts, to going to her parent-teacher conferences and whatnot. This is why my ex says I'm the closest thing she has to a mother. And to finish it up, my ex and I didn't break up recently. We broke up 6 years ago 'cause we wanted different things in life. We stayed in contact 'cause we've always been friends first and, most importantly, 'cause of my niece these days. My niece comes to stay with me at least every other week, sometimes more. Sometimes less 'cause my ex and I are both chill with her choosing for herself, and she has her own room at my place. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like your ex has a solid understanding of your role in his and your niece's life, which is great. His GF's behavior is still a bit odd though, especially since she apparently liked you before. Glad you were able to clear the air. Reply, yeah? It really makes this whole thing even stranger. I really hope he lets me know what it ended up being, just for my own peace of mind and, admittedly, 'cause I'm a wee bit curious, if she actually ends up telling him, that is. Commenter 2. Your nerves were totally understandable, but it's good you took control of the situation. Now at least everyone's cards are on the table and your ex knows exactly where you stand. Reply, yeah, NGL, I'm a huge was where things like these are concerned. I'm fine arguing and fighting myself if no one else is involved. I do, however, genuinely hate being a bother to anyone and rocking the boat by tattling on her, but yeah. At least now it's kind of off my chest and out of my hands. My ex can probably try to work it out better than I can. Commenter 3. Anyway, you can peek at your niece's phone? I'm not normally an advocate for this, but if your niece is young, what the girlfriend said could be causing harm. I think you need to find out. Reply. Generally, yes, I could. And I wouldn't even need to peek. She's fine with us checking her phone after we explained that both my ex and I had out fair share of cyberbullies back in the day. The struggles of dating a teen dad in the late shorus. And that we're maybe a bit paranoid of that happening to her. So she's fine with that, but she's with my ex right now, so I don't have access to her phone. I'll ask him to check, and if for some reason he can't, I'll have a check myself once she comes over tomorrow. Good thinking. Commenter 4. My fear is the girlfriend tried to make the niece decide between her and you, and did not get the answer she wanted. Reply. Oh damn, pardon my French, but she'd be so fucking dumb if she actually did that. She's been with my ex, and thus in my niece's life for like a year or so now. That's really not a lot of time in general, but definitely not compared to me. It'd be crazy if she actually expected any decent results from that. Commenter 5. Could she be pregnant? If she was, maybe it triggered a reaction in her where she wants one happy family and have your niece as her daughter. Reply, oh holy shit, I did not think of that. She probably could be. I'm not exactly asking my ex about his sex life, but I'd assume that, yeah, she could. But that'd be a whole arse mess cause, from what I know, my ex doesn't want more kids. Final update. Hello everybody. I would start off by saying something like, I don't know if anyone remembers me, but you've all been very vocal in my inbox this past month, so I'm just going to assume that yes, some of you do. This all got much more attention than I ever expected, so I'm honestly quite nervous to even update this cause. I just know the result really isn't what most of you wanted or were hoping for. But my boyfriend and my flatmate were having a field day with all your comments and messages. They asked me to say thanks to the person that came up with the bio-mum amnesia car accident theory. I don't know either. I stopped reading comments eventually. But they really enjoyed that one. So the two of them were basically bullying me into this. I'm not really sure where to start, so I'll just go by what I was asked the most. I guess, oh, and before that I kind of feel the need to clarify. I don't call my ex IRL, I call him by his name, right? I got multiple messages asking me to stop calling him that, since we're more than that at this point. So just to make that clear, I call him by his first name. Okay now, first things first. We're all fine. My niece is fine. My ex and his GF are kind of fine. And I'm grand as well. Thanks for checking in and even sending us those Reddit care thingies? You know what I mean. Then a lot of you were asking about my niece, and if we ever found out what was bothering her, and yes, we did. My ex dropped off my niece at my place not long after I posted the second update. It was her turn to stay at my place, and she was still in a shitty mood just like she'd been this entire time, if not a bit worse, so she didn't even stay to say bye to my ex. She just stomped off into her room and holed herself up for the day. My ex asked me if I could try and have a chat with her while she stayed over, cause apparently he'd tried, and it didn't go over well. I think we were both kind of on edge cause this isn't usually her style, but then again, teens will teen. Anyway, I told him I'd try and send him on his merry way for now. It took me a couple of days to actually get to the chatting. The first few days were really, woof. It's like I was sharing my house with a particularly pissed-off velociraptor. I basically spent the entire time throwing snacks and wee little trinkets at her, hoping she'll not bite my hand off in the process. But eventually she cooled off enough, and with some fine needling and enough ice cream to feed an army, I managed to get some answers. Good news. The GF did not talk to her. So, lower thy pitchforks, Reddit. The woman is nay a witch. Bad news. My niece did overhear the GF bad-mouthing me on the phone. Like some of you guessed, the GF apparently didn't know that my niece was home. She came home early from school, and the GF didn't hear her come in. So I doubt it was on purpose, but it still happened, and my niece did not take it well. She'd been in a bad mood anyway, just normal teen struggles. Mind, including, God's help me, boy troubles. Does anyone have a handbook on how to handle that? 'Cause I'm not ready. And since my ex took the news like a man going to war, I seriously doubt he's either. And hearing the GF talk shit certainly didn't help. She really didn't want to tell me what exactly the GF said, but it seemed to have been really below the belt. Just going the fact that my niece was angry crying during that part of our chat, I didn't pressure to tell me more since it just seemed to upset her. But I did ask her to please tell her dad what was said so that she could get it off of her chest, which she did do after both my ex and I promised that he wouldn't tell me either. I know that's kind of a letdown for some of you, but to be honest, I don't really care. If she wants to talk shit, she can. I'm just happy my niece doesn't have to carry that stuff around on her own anymore. Now, as for my ex and his GF difficult, it took a while longer for that to get resolved. I actually didn't hear anything back until quite recently, and the end result is kind of, The short of it is, I was catching strays, that's all. My ex eventually called me and told me that much. He also said that his GF would like to talk to me personally and ask me to hear her out. Which fine, sure, I'll do that. So, they rocked up to my place about a week ago and we all had tea. Let me tell you, it was awks. The GF was really twitchy and nervous the entire time, and I think we spent 20 minutes just talking about the weather before she finally managed to cough up an apology. That apology was then followed by 50 more. No matter how often I told her that it was okay, and that I was more than content to just move on, she was thankful, but she asked me if I'd let her explain herself. So I did, and yeah, turns out she didn't really have a reason to come at me. But she did have a reason overall for why she acted the way she did. The first and probably biggest reason I won't tell you, 'cause it goes far beyond me telling you about something I was involved in, or me sitting here like, well, she was being a bit of a cunt. What do I do? But let it be said, something sad happened. It wasn't anyone's fault. Nobody did anything wrong. It was just something tragic that happens to some people and couldn't be avoided. That's all. The second reason was that she apparently had a minor dispute with my ex about kind of me, I guess? So, from what the two of them told me, the GF texted my ex not long before she first messaged me and asked him if he could pick her up from work 'cause she wasn't feeling well. He told her that yes, he would, but it'd take him a while since he was about to drop my niece off at my place. Now, what he meant by that was, the drive will take longer than usual 'cause my name lives at the other end of town. What she took it as was, my name is more important than you right now, so you'll have to wait. Honestly, I do not get it either. I wasn't even the reason he was coming over, so I'm not sure why that is how she took it. But okay, fine. She was in a state cause of the sad thing. Maybe that's just how it felt at the time. And the third reason is that she feels kind of like the odd one out in my exes, and thus partially my friend group, which was making her feel insecure. And that'd be fine. It's human. But her reason for feeling like the odd one out was apparently that she's straight, and most of us are not. That surprised both my ex and I 'cause, most of our friends are, in fact, straight in our collective friend group. There's just me, my boyfriend, my ex. We're all bi and one gay chap plus his boyfriend. The rest are straight as hell. Like I majored in business, have a wife, a dog and 112 children type straight lol, so yeah. We didn't know how she got that idea, and she was honestly very rattled once we'd cleared that up. All of that then collided into one big ball of frustration, and that frustration was then aimed at the easiest target. Me. So she snuck into my ex's phone, got my number and told me to back off. According to her, she immediately regretted it, but didn't know how to fix it until my ex put her on the spot. She also reiterated that she really isn't bothered by me, and that she was being truthful when she'd told my ex that she'd like to get to know me more. I told her that that was fine by me. Yes, this is me cutting her some slack. She overreacted and made a mistake. Shit happens. But that she might want to try and talk to my niece before that relationship completely evaporated. But once she's settled that, I'm down to meeting for coffee or hanging out as a group with my niece or whatever, and that is really kind of where we left it. I did ask my ex where his head's at while the GF was off to the loo and how he's feeling, and he told me he's not quite sure yet. He does see where she's coming from and he's happy that she owned up to her mistakes and wanted to apologize and all that. But he's miffed that she even reacted like that in the first place. You know, that she'd rather sneak into his phone and then betch at me instead of just talking to him. Oh, and he's extremely pissed off about the things she said about me when my niece overheard her. That is, I didn't ask him more than that 'cause we'd promised my niece, but I did tell him to not let that be his deciding factor. If anything, apart from that, I didn't pry for more. And that is pretty much it, guys. Sorry that I can't deliver the dramatic story filled with big reveals, harsh realizations, and angry breakups, but alas, real life tends to be a bit boring and shit just ends with people having a wee chat over tea. My boyfriend offered to act out a dramatic scene where I break up with him 'cause I realized I'm still in love with my ex in case anyone is interested. Lol. But unless that's it, this is where we part ways. Thanks for sticking around and for all the advice you've given me. I really didn't expect my little issue would get this much attention. So here's to me never underestimating Reddit again. Have a lovely day night wherever you are. Relevant comments. Commenter. 1. I always love a side character that wants to bring the high drama. Tell your boyfriend he's got a Reddit fan. Reply, oh no, you're so going to inflate his ego. He says thanks though. He's already got a full script planned. Commenter 2. Was a great read. You handled it with grace and maturity. Good on you. You sound like a decent sort of person who I'd be chuffed to have a cup of tea with. Reply, aw, thanks. I try, haha. But honestly, I'm just too tired for drawn-out drama. I think commenter 3. So girlfriend had a miscarriage. Asked boyfriend for a ride in aftermath while he was on the way to dropping daughter off, and had an irrational hormone, grief-induced reaction, and sent a couple of stupid texts. Doesn't excuse whatever vile rant she had about OP. That niece heard that has probably torpedoed that relationship niece-cha girlfriend. It's really hard to come back from hearing something said about your auntie mom that is so bad you don't want her to ever know what was said. Commenter 4. Sounds like girlfriend has been feeling insecure for a while and was looking for a convenient scapegoat. Hoping your ex realizes that niece has lost all respect for his girlfriend and may actually reenact Jurassic Park if he tries to pretend everything is fine going forward. For real though, once the kid of someone you're dating has lost all respect for you, the relationship is basically toast. Everything will now be ex trying to choose between his girlfriend, an insecure adult pick-me, and his fierce teen daughter who clearly doesn't tolerate anyone talking shit about people she cares for. Please update if Teen Velociraptor makes a reappearance. Kids can be brutally hilarious. Stories number 11. ATA for telling my boyfriend I'm thinking about leaving the relationship after he told me I don't need him after I broke my ankle yesterday. My boyfriend, 34 male, who we will call Tree, and I, 27 femme, have been together not even a full year yet. I love him, and he is a great guy. I am just starting to notice we have two different outlooks and views on how relationships should be, such as how men should treat women and vice versa. Some context. He sees women should be independent with or without a partner. I agree, however, I also feel your partner should take some of the load off and help out. My ideal of a partnership, he also would like me to figure things out before I call him, which is weird to me. So now the story. I bought him some chips a couple days ago and kept forgetting them in my car. It's 5 a.m. He got off from working 10 hours and called me and asked if I could grab them out the car. No biggie, we had a regular convo. How was work? He'd tell me and I would just see him once he got home. Once we got off the phone, I got up and went out to the car to get the chips. I forgot to turn on the porch light and missed the step out front and fell. I heard a crack on my left foot on my way down to the ground and immediately knew something was wrong. I picked myself up after screaming in the front yard in pain. Went back in the house and sat at the kitchen table having a panic attack until he got home. In the meantime, I took off my stocks and saw my left ankle was swollen, the size of a golf ball. The right leg hurt the most. Once he got in, he heard me hyperventilating, walked into the kitchen, sees me and goes, "What's wrong?" I couldn't speak, so I pointed down to my ankles and could eventually tell him I fell going out to my car. He panicked by seeing how big my ankle was and goes, "IDK, what to do?" He picked me up and took me to the couch. He walked off and I was crying hysterically in pain. He tells me he's going out to smoke. When he comes back inside, I insist I need to go to the hospital. He goes, "Okay, but right now? I just worked, I need to shower." I get so irritated I yell, "Go ahead." I got angry, I'm in pain. Unbearable pain. He says, "Okay, I will take a quick shower," which led to 30 minutes later, all I could do was think of calling for an ambulance. I'm still crying at this point. Once he finally gets out the shower, he double-checks and says, "Are you sure you want to go?" I screamed, "Yes!" He's panicking and goes, "Okay," while he's putting on clothes. I was wearing a muumuu free balling, so I told him to grab me some panties and shorts. Took him a few minutes to get it, but he did. He helped me put on clothes and walked off to do whatever. It felt like he was stalling. So I go, "You know what? It's fine, I'll call for an ambulance. I felt he had no sense of urgency. He called me crazy for mentioning the ambulance and said, "I wouldn't put this on you if it were the other way around." That made me very upset. And I shouted, "Are you going to take me or not?" He asked, "Does your ankle hurt or not?" Fast forward, we are in the car on our way to the ER. I tell him once I get in and situated he can go home. I understand he was tired and hungry. He said I was crazy and he was staying. I let it go. Once I get into a room, the doctors asked if he could step out while they did x-rays. He stepped out. X-rays took all of 5 minutes. I thought he went out into the hallway. An hour goes by and he called me saying, "What are they saying?" I told him we were waiting on x-rays to come back and asked, "Where are you?" He said in the lobby. He fell asleep and that he was coming back in the room. He comes back with food. He got me a sandwich. He eats and falls asleep again. But I noticed he couldn't get comfy. He starts complaining about how long they are taking, how tired he is, how long he's worked, and it got annoying very fast. 1 p.m. rolled around and still nothing from the doctors and Tree is huffing and puffing. So I told him to go home because he isn't helping, and I can't do anything. He leaves, and about 45 minutes later, doctor says I sprained my left ankle and broke the right one. No surgery needed. Doctor gave me 2 boots, crutches, and released me. I tried calling him, no answer. So I get an Uber home. 10 minutes prior to getting home, I called Trey again. He picks up saying he unlocked the door for me. I get out the Uber, struggling walking to the door, so the Uber guy helps me the best he's allowed to. I get in and lay down on the couch. Next day, Tree has an appointment to get his hair cut, and I ask him while he's out, can he pick up my pain meds? He says yes. He leaves. I take a nap, and when he gets back, I ask about the pain meds. He says yes, I haven't gotten them yet. I'm annoyed, but don't say anything. He starts making food, drinking, and says he's about to lay down. I'm pissed because, whatever, I'm needing to wash up and also use the bathroom. I get up the best I can to use the bathroom. You have to walk past the bedroom to get to the bathroom. He's up eating chips, laughing at videos. I use the restroom and was up the best I can and make it back to the couch. The pharmacy closes at 5 and it's about 2 p.m. at this point. I don't say anything. I dozed off until about 4 p.m. I yell his name. He comes into the living room and I ask about the meds and he says yes, I'll go get them. I told him I got up and used the bathroom along with washed up. He goes, "I'm proud of you. You don't need me. I want everyone around me independent, and besides, what are you going to do when I'm at work?" I told him, "I would obviously figure it out, but while you're here, it would be nice to have some help." I immediately got mad because you're my man. My boyfriend. We talk about marriage and kids. I couldn't help but think to myself, I can't marry someone like that. A few hours go by, and it's about 8 p.m., and I say to him, I can't change you, but all I can do is change if I want to deal with it or not, in the most polite voice. And he flipped out saying I'm threatening him. And I would regret anything that happens and he will be fine. Stormed out of the living room and hasn't said a word since. Comments? Commenter 1. Never ever ever have kids with this man. Not only will he treat you just as badly as he's treating you now, but he'll treat the kids this badly too. Commenter 2, NTA. He's not upset that you're threatening him. He's upset that you're calling him out on being a completely unsupportive partner. His whole "I want you to be independent" thing is just a cover for being selfish. Commenter 3. Did he ever get your pain meds? 'Cause I just want to slap him. This is no way to act when someone is in 2 boots and needs help. Geez. Commenter 4. He's using this independence as a facade for him to be lazy and not care. He doesn't want to help you. Imagine when you have kids, or you have a serious illness. This is not the person to be with at all. Stories number 12. Me 28 with my husband 30 and FWB 25. His mother found out and threatens to tell people. My husband was the type that believed in no sexy before marriage. When we started dating, everything was perfect except this. And I accepted it since I really liked him. And soon we fell in love after marriage. He slowly realized that he's really not that interested in sex whatsoever. And some therapy helped us realize that he's asexual. This was a major disappointment for me since I was looking forward to having sex with him for a very long time. I couldn't leave him for this, since I was and still am in love with him. So we worked out a solution that I'll have a FWB for my sexual needs, and we set proper boundaries. We did this 2 years ago, and so far our life together has been very good. This has always been something between us, so nobody else knew. Well, out of some freak accident and me not being as careful as I should have been, Mill figured out what's going on. I said something that raised suspicions and she dug deep for weeks until she found out. Now she's threatening me to tell everyone what's going on. My husband has talked to her, telling her that it's a mutual decision and none of her business, but she's bit having it. She's demanding that 1, I confess to my sins in the church, and 2, stop doing it. And 3 words. Future kids will only be accepted in the family if we provide paternity tests. Otherwise, she will tell everyone. That will be a disaster since we live in a very religious and conservative community. I work for a church, and it almost certainly means I'll lose my job, and we will lose most of our friends as well. I don't want it to happen. We really have no idea how to avoid this situation. TLDR, my husband is asexual, and I have a FWB. Mill found out and is threatening to tell people unless we give in to her demands. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Not to kick you when you're down, but how was she able to dig deep? Everything short of a private detective, and you were being way bad at hiding this. For God's sakes, people manage to hide these things from their own partners. The only reason I'm saying this is, of course, you don't stop. Just cover your tracks better. I'm assuming you don't have to confess in public. Then the only thing that matters is just hiding it better. And could you, for your own sanity, then maybe work on getting less conservative friends and maybe finding another job? And never see your husband's family again? How is he taking the fact that your mother is threatening to sabotage your entire life, BTW? He should be furious, because after this you're never going to be accepted. Even if she doesn't out you in public, she'll know. She'll gossip. She'll dig. So either you get your husband to keep his side of the family in line, or make sure you don't need that side of the family. Reply. She followed me after work for days. Basically played private detective herself because she suspected that I was cheating. I wasn't very careful at hiding it, since I never thought anyone would care to even look into me. I was wrong. He is furious at his mother, but we both understand that anger will not solve anything. So we're trying to be pragmatic. We want to avoid as much harm as possible. And in the long term, I should find a new job, and maybe we should expand our social circles to include more open-minded people. Commenter 2. Is she going to expose the identity of your FWB too? How might this affect him? Reply. We talked to him as well. This won't affect him much. He's not in our normal social circle, and his place of work will not care at all. Commenter 3. What a vile woman. If your husband can't convince his own mother to not blow up your life, I don't think there's anything you can do. Your Mael will never let this go and use this information to blackmail you for decades. Do not think for a second that if you comply with her demands, that there won't be more demands after that, over and over again. This information will get out. Eventually reply. Yeah, that's why we can't just give in to her demands. There will be more, especially when we have kids. We're trying to find a solution that doesn't mean total disaster, and we can't seem to find it. Commenter 4. Could your husband threaten her right back by withholding all future access to her grandkids if she doesn't keep this a secret? But honestly, I fear you're fucked either way. Your husband needs to deal with this. But you've been playing with fire, doing what you're doing in the kind of community you're living in. Secrets like these always come out, and with the judgmental people that surround you, it won't end well, unfortunately. I suggest you prepare for the worst. Reply. We threatened her back with that. She isn't afraid because in her mind they won't even be her grandkids, even if we give her a paternity test. She won't believe the test, given her paranoia. Commenter 5. My husband was the type that believed in no sexy before marriage. When we started dating, everything was perfect except this, and I accepted it since I really liked him. And soon we fell in love after marriage. He slowly realized that he's really not that interested in sex whatsoever, and some therapy helped us realize that he's asexual. This was a major disappointment for me since I was looking forward to having sex with him for a very long time. No, he was in his late 20s when this FWB arrangement started. He didn't slowly realize he was not interested in sex after you married him. This is not a revelation that first occurs to you in your mid-20s. He slowly revealed to you that he wasn't interested in sex after he had gotten you to marry him. Reply: he always believed that things will change after marriage. As he was led to believe after marriage, he realized that things weren't going to change. He didn't deceive me in any way. I don't doubt his sincerity for 1 second. I was right there with him with his struggles to deal with this. Update, so she told everyone. That made us explain to people what's going on. And surprisingly, people weren't all that bad. We lost about half of our friends, but others basically said it's none of their business and they don't care. We underestimated some of our friends. We decided to cut off MIL, and everyone who sided with her Maya Sil was the last person who I thought would come on our side, but she did. She called and defended us and told us that she'll join us in cutting off her mother since this could have easily been her instead of her brother. But I lost my job. Church basically had to let me go since people wanted me gone. So that also happened. I'm now looking for a new job. Mill also went to my FWB's place to confront him. He shut the door on her face and told her to fuck off, tell DR. Mill told everyone and I lost my job. Friends split and we decided to cut off her and those who supported her. I'm looking for a new job now. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. She actually went to your FWB's house? Wow, I actually think this went sorta well. Losing your job sucks, but the fact that you did lose your job because of your private, personal life means this wasn't the job for you. Now you know who your friends are and that you still have friends. You have a better relationship with SIL, and you can cut Mill out of your life with no more debate or guilt. So congrats. Reply: she actually went to your FWB's house? Wow, she blamed him for seducing me. She thinks I met a hot guy and lost my mind over him, and then guilted my husband into accepting this arrangement. Commenter 2, out of curiosity. Care to explain how you found your FWB? Reply: online dating. I made a profile and wrote what I'm after. Out of hundreds of people who contacted me, I went on dates with about 15 people until I found my someone I liked and could connect with. It was a great arrangement for both of us, since he wanted a lover for sex and physical intimacy, but not a relationship. I then invited him to meet my husband, and after he told me that he likes him and gave me go-ahead, I went on further dates with the FWB and we eventually started having sex. Once we both realized this could work long-term, we sat down and worked out boundaries, and it's working very well for us. Commenter 3OP. I remember your original post. May I ask what you said that tipped her off in the first place? I was really curious about that. Reply: it was about polygamy. She was saying how wrong it is, and I just added a comment that as long as it's consenting adults it shouldn't matter. We had a few back and forth and I dropped it, but my answers made her suspicious. Commenter 4. Are you still going to attend that church? I mean, a church is a community which is hard to leave, but they just took away your job too. Reply: of course not. I'm not even religious. Church was just a well-paying job for me. Stories number 13. Aita for being the reason kids can't play on communal space. So I recently moved into an apartment complex and have been loving it so far. For a little needed explanation, my building is just south of a grilling area, open grass space. This is the communal area I am talking about. From the north, it's bordered by more units. From the west, it has a busy street, and the east has our parking lot. Now, when we first moved in, I would constantly see kids playing. My balcony overlooks the communal grilling or grass area, and my first thoughts were, finally kids doing kid stuff. But if it stayed that way, I wouldn't be posting here. The problem started with the kids hiding between the cars while playing, leading them to scratch not only my car, but the neighbors from my building too. Not just once, but multiple times. I reached out to the leasing office for help as to what can be done. I explained the entire situation with pictures of scratches not only on my car, but my neighbors sent me their car scratches as well. Come to find out, kids under the age of 17 can't be outside by themselves according to the lease rules, policies. They gave me 3 options. I can go up to the kids to tell them to go back to their houses. Apt. I didn't feel comfortable with this option, as kids these days really don't listen to anyone. I can call the leasing office every time I see them to report the lease violation. I can call the police, show them the lease violation, and have them escort the kids back to their homes. Obviously, number 3 is a huge escalation that I didn't want to do, so I chose option number 2 and included pictures from my balcony of the kids by themselves, still playing in between the cars. The office followed up with me saying that the unit those kids are from are on their last chance before the violations become reason enough for eviction. Apparently, they have had lease violations reported on them before. I was explaining this to my friend, as she was seeing me take the pictures from my balcony, and she called me an insensitive AH. She said that because I'm not a parent, I can't imagine how tiring it must be for a parent to watch their kids outside after work, when the parents deserve to relax. She started saying I need to be part of their village. I kept trying to tell her that there are other places for these kids to play. Our complex has 3 fenced playgrounds, specifically for kids still require parental supervision that they could play in. So I didn't think I'm in the wrong, but now I'm second-guessing myself. So am I being a Karen? Comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like your friend is the type of parent that thinks everybody else needs to be responsible for her kids. We call those people shitty parents. NTA. Commenter 2. Yup. It takes a village to raise a child is being intentionally misconstrued by the friend to make OP look and feel bad. No, OP does not need to be a part of their village. Your village is made up of your family, close friends, and any services like childcare and school. Your village does not contain Brian from Unit 505 and Sarah from Unit 230, unless they have proactively offered to be a part of the village. Also, they're scratching cars and causing damage. OP even said it's not a problem they're there, it's that they are damaging property when they are. They could do anything elsewhere. And yet commenter 3 NTA, the parents of these young people have had plenty of warning. They apparently have been told not to do plenty of things or face eviction. And they can't or just don't care. Or the kids don't care. I'm putting parents and kids in quotation marks because in this instance, it doesn't seem that either term really quite applies. Commenter 4. Sounds like your friend is the type of parent that thinks everybody else needs to be responsible for her kids. We call those people shitty parents. NTA. Commenter 5. Yup. It takes a village to raise a child is being intentionally misconstrued by the friend to make OP look and feel bad. No, OP does not need to be a part of their village. Your village is made up of your family, close friends, and any services like childcare and school. Your village does not contain Brian from Unit 505 and Sarah from Unit 230. Unless they have proactively offered to be a part of the village. Also, they're scratching cars and causing damage. OP even said it's not a problem they're there. It's that they are damaging property when they are. They could do anything elsewhere, and yet commenter 6 NTA. The parents of these young people have had plenty of warning. They apparently have been told not to do plenty of things or face eviction, and they can't or just don't care. Or the kids don't care. I'm putting parents and kids in quotation marks because in this instance, it doesn't seem that either term really quite applies. Update. At the suggestion of my leasing office, I put an outside camera on my balcony, specifically looking at the cars in the parking lot. While my partner and I were out, left my car and took his, I got a motion notification and was able to catch the kids in the act of not only scratching my car, but the 2 other neighbors as well. When I got home, I showed my neighbors the video, and we agreed together that with the video evidence and previous discussion with the leasing office that we would be pressing charges for property damage. We filed a police report with the non-emergency number. After we had the police report, we took it to the leasing office with the video, and per the agent there, they will be looking into evicting the tenant. I ended up sending them the video of the kids, and they will be using that as further evidence along with the previously reported lease violations. As for my friend from the previous post, she is now going on a crusade to warn our mutual friends how terrible and apathetic of a person I am. Honestly, thank you for the comments. I felt better knowing I wasn't TA. Edit. To answer question in the comments, all kids 10 and under, Parents warned with more than 4 lease violations. There are playgrounds for kids, but this area isn't it. Comments? Commenter 1. Like they were intentionally scratching cars? Either way, there is no reason for them to play in a parking lot, or you're part of the village by keeping kids away from the cars. Commenter 2. The kids in my complex love playing in the parking lot, riding their bikes in front of cars, jumping out in front of cars, not looking where they are going. I dread the day when one of them gets hurt. There is also a park right next door. The parents just can't be bothered to take them. Commenter 3. We had a similar situation in my old apartment complex, and a 6-year-old kid was hit by a utility truck and died in the parking lot. Next day, the kids were all out playing in the parking lot without parental supervision, like nothing happened. Commenter 4. With your friend's attitude towards parenting, if she ever has kids, they're gonna turn out to be awful people. Reply, thank God we are not friends anymore. Because I agree with you. Stories number 14. Entitled Teenager Cuts in line in front of my daughter at lunch yesterday. My daughter is a freshman in high school. During dinner yesterday, I asked how school went, and my daughter told me how, before she could get a lunch tray, some senior boy cut in front of her by shoving her out of the way. My daughter told the kid, "What do you think this is, elementary school? Really mature of you." The senior turns to her and says he doesn't give a shit. Edit. My daughter notices his coat he's wearing, which is from the football team. And before she says anything, she decides not to because she didn't want to escalate anything. My son, who is on the football team, asked her, what did guy look like, and he'd handle it. She gave her brother a description, and later I'm sure I'll have an update at dinner today. My son has always looked out for his little sister, and I'm feeling positive he handled everything maturely. The update: finished dinner with the kids and my husband. The kids had practice today for their respective sports. My daughter reported the senior once again picked on her, this time in the library during study by knocking her books to the ground. My son said he saw what happened. True to his word, he approached the guy in the locker room as they got ready for practice. My son told the guy that he had heard how the guy was picking on a freshman. The guy asked, "What's it to him?" And my son told him the freshman is his little sister. And the guy instantly went pale as a ghost because he, in height comparison to my son, is 7 inches shorter. The guy then asked if he was going to teach him a lesson at practice, and all my son told him was, "Let's go play some football." During practice, my son, who is a linebacker, tackled the guy several times, as the guy is one of the slot receivers. After a while, the ball was stopped being passed to the guy, not because my son kept tackling him as well, causing him to fumble, with my son recovering the ball for every pass that was thrown to him. My son overheard the coach telling the guy stop being so easily distracted. I think the guy knew that my son is one of the best linebackers on the team, and guy felt nervous. By the end of practice, the guy said to my son, asking, was he done teaching him a lesson? And all my son said was, "Yeah, the lesson is, be prepared for what any linebacker will do to you on the field." I was being professional the whole practice. I wasn't getting retribution for my sister, but in the future, stop picking on my sister, or I'll go to the coach. I'm sure he'd love to hear how you're picking on a freshman, especially a girl freshman. I'm glad my son kept everything professional during practice and used his words to warn the guy. My son never resorts to anything bad. He prefers to use words to resolve problems. What tomorrow brings, we'll see. Comments. Commenter 1. Oh, please update us when you can. I do love a happy ending as much as I hate bullies. Commenter 2. I hope he didn't handle it maturely. I hope he smacked the shit out of him for laying hands on his sister. Commenter 3. Had to deal with people picking on kids when I was in high school. In the lunchroom, me and my friends had them picked on kids sit at our lunch tables back then. Nobody messed with me and my friends once they saw them sitting with us. The nonsense stopped immediately. We were kind of scary. LMAO. Commenter 4. The description of the football practice seems like a very real thing that happened. Your knowledge and experience with the sport of football is obviously extensive. This very real story proves it. Stories number 15. I went on the dark web and saw videos I should not have seen. This happened last month and I can't stop thinking about it. I heard someone online talking about how going on the dark web isn't illegal, just things like downloading or buying items. I was curious what the dark web was like, So I downloaded the Tor browser and opened it up. I basically just wanted to window shop and see what there was. I looked up on Tor dark web search engine addresses. Got to a dark web search engine, but then I got stuck. I didn't even know what to look up. I decided to just search porn and clicked on the first website. Once the website loaded, I couldn't really process what was on the screen at first. On the homepage, there were videos like any porn homepage, except these were videos of stuff like autopsies, death rape, but mostly there was CP. I stared at the thumbnails for a minute processing since I couldn't even really comprehend that I found these types of videos. I immediately exited out of the browser and deleted Tor, and I felt sick and shaky the rest of the night. And I regret going on there. I can't stop picturing those thumbnails, and I haven't told anyone about what I did or saw until now. Edit. I honest didn't think about what I would find as stupid as it sounds now. I was just naive, and that's basically the only thing I have Googled in a private tab. I know it's my fault. I really appreciate the people who said I should spend some time volunteering for children. I just signed up for later this month. Edit 2. I added the volunteer info as a reply to commenters who suggested that putting time towards helping kids and being in a positive place would help me feel more grounded, which I need. I was on some sort of onion URL, not the Tor default browser. This is also a throwaway account, and I am definitely an idiot. Comments, Commenter 1. Recently, I have been curious to look at the dark web. Reading these things has cured all that. Thank you, Commenter 2. Back when burning discs was a thing, I got gifted one from a sketchy friend. It had the most awful shit on it. No CP, thankfully. But one clip was supposed to be a snuff film. Looked too real to me to ever get it out of my head. This was like 25 years ago, and I still remember the clip of the woman pulling like a 10 LB fish out of her ass. I remember that more than anything else. That and the snuff clip scarred me. Commenter 3. If it makes you feel any better. When we were kids, we had websites like Rotten, and some of us ended up watching people get their heads chopped off, or watching strange shit fetish videos when we were like 9, with no context for any of it. Anyways, we're mostly fine now despite it. Stories number 16. Aita for telling my half-sister to shut the fuck up, and I don't give a fuck about what she wants or how she feels. This might get long and is complicated, messy. So I'm warning everyone now. My parents were married when they had me M17. Then within a year they were cheating on each other with the people they're married to today. Mom's married to Justin and Dad's married to Claire. My parents had a pretty nasty breakup and divorce from what I was told. Claire was pregnant during the divorce, and so was Mom. Mom's baby was Justin's, my half-brother, and Claire's baby was Dad's, my half-sister. Custody of me was split pretty evenly down the middle. After a few years, though, my dad and Mom had an affair with each other and Mom got pregnant. My little brother had a fatal fetal abnormality, and his death made my parents' relationship even more complicated. It was also when both their marriages strained. Yet Justin and Claire never divorced my mom and dad. There's always animosity because of the affairs. Claire and Justin's families hate me because I'm the piece that ties my parents together forever. There were times someone in their families was pretty nasty to me and blamed me. At some point, my half-siblings, I have several from both parents, picked up on that animosity. Claire and Justin resented me too, yet stay married to my parents. My parents end up cheating with each other about once a year most of the time. 2 years ago, they had another affair that made them separate from Claire and Justin for a while. But eventually they decided to save their marriages and not stay with each other. Since that, things have been different. Things are more tense, more stressful. The hate for me has increased. I mean, even my own family grandparents and stuff resent or blame me in some way. They don't want to know me. And when they are around me, they treat me so different to my half-siblings. There are times my parents will take me to visit my brother's grave and it's just the 3 of us. That never goes so well with their spouses or families. I don't even really like being there with them because their relationship has fucked my life over in a million different ways. But they insist on me going with them because my brother was ours. They have even said he would have been my full sibling and would have given me a sibling to love and be close with. Recently there have been comments about my parents having yet another affair with each other. I don't even know if that's true or not. But this is where my title comes into play. Half-sister in question is Dad and Claire's 15-year-old, who Claire was pregnant with when Dad and Mom were divorcing. My half-sister was telling me she wished I had died like my brother, that maybe Mom and Dad would stay away from each other too. And I ignored her. I didn't even flip her off like I wanted. It pissed her off bad and she started getting emotional and she was yelling about how unfair it is and how I never apologize for what my parents do and I never care about the hurt to her or her mom or her siblings. She told me it drives her crazy and makes her so afraid, and I should feel bad and guilty. She said clearly I'm just a shithead and I want Mom and Dad to blow off everyone else and make the three of us a family again. She said she wants her family to be happy, and for her parents to be happy, and she wants me to make that happen because I owe her mom, siblings and her that. It pissed me off that again it's blamed on me. So I stopped ignoring her and told her to shut the fuck up, and I don't care what she wants or how she feels. I told her I don't give a fuck about her at all, and that I owe her family nothing. She ran off crying, which caused some people, Claire and her family, and some of Dad's family to tell me I'm a monster. And how could I do that to my half-sister after all she's been through? They even played the she's younger card. Comments, commenter 1, what a disaster. NTA, reply, wish I could say this is everything too, but nah. I had to cut some stuff or it would have been way longer. Commenter 2, I hope you have planned and saved up to move as far away from your biological parents as possible once you turn 18. NTA, reply, I've been doing stuff for money since I was 14 and working part-time for over a year. I don't have much saved, but it's going to have to be enough. I already know stuff will be tough, but it's still got to be better than this. Commenter 3. Just keep planning your exit strategy. Get a job. Get a bank account they can't touch. Some online access I believe are available to minors. Save up and put them all in your rear view as quickly as possible. Family is what you make with the people you care about. These people aren't your family. They're your biological donors. Commenter 4. Stop holding back. This should be your default from now on. Make them feel as bad as they've made you feel. Your parents are the bad guys here. You did nothing. They're grown adults who have spent their lives messing up other people and don't care at all. So why should you? Stories number 17. So many of these supposed feminist spaces are just places where white women hate men and get racist. IDK, why I keep falling for these LOL. I have learned that as an Asian woman who is a strong feminist, these spaces are really not geared towards people like me. It's a bunch of single women who are single because they truly cannot maintain a relationship, and for some reason get super racist at the slightest disagreement. I don't mean regressive BS like won't cook or clean for a man or shit like that. I mean these types of ladies truly hate doing anything kind regarding a man that they want to be their partner. I mentioned how my husband wanted me to keep his mother company because she was depressed due to her mother inflicting emotional abuse on her and making her cry. And I got told that I was a slave to my husband for fulfilling his request, plus a lot of nasty assumptions about my marriage when I mentioned my Asian heritage. So suddenly I am submissive and weak and on a tight leash for cooking dinner for my husband after his 11-hour shift. And I currently don't have a job, so it's not like I am doing everything at once. Like they were all gassing each other up for being super feminist, for refusing to do anything, and wanting a man to give them everything. Like teenage-level delusions, I am not ever the type to say, that's why you can't get a man, like some pick me. But you can't have Confederate levels of racism and be cruel, then complain that you're single, bruh. Edit. Shitting on feminism won't get you anywhere. I am a raging feminist. I love my husband. These two are not mutually exclusive. Comments, commenter 1. Most of these spaces are hive minds that require 100% agreement on everything. Or else they start doing all the shit to you they constantly whine about being done to them and whatever other groups they claim to stand for. It's why all the progress these groups stand for is stalling out in the West. And instead of looking inward, they get more angry and extreme and just drive more people away, all the while claiming the victim. These groups are just creating self-fulfilling prophecies, hurting themselves and blaming everyone else for it. You're better off creating a new space for like-minded, rational people and gatekeep the shit out of it. Because the second you let one of the radicals in, it all goes to shit. Commenter 2. Look for spaces that emphasize the term intersectional. These are the people who care about not only their own struggles, but the struggles of others who don't share their color, sexual orientation, etc. And make a point to include diverse voices. Commenter 3. My ex used to go to a feminists group meeting once a month. When she first mentioned it, I thought, oh, that's great. A group that meets up to come up with actionable ideas to lift up women in our community. Turns out they just drank wine and complained about men. Every time she went to this thing, she came back drunk and spouting off statistics about infidelity, domestic violence, etc., and generally treated me like shit for the next 24 hours. Commenter 4. Identity politics was a mistake. It results in atomizing people. American social justice communities are even worse because the American ideology of hyper-individualism seeps in and, instead of trying to build community and make strategic moves to address systemic issues, it's just a bunch of self-absorbed people talking about their oppression and their anecdotes of experiencing bigotry. Also, again, because it's America, class issues are brushed under the carpet or only given lip service in favor of visible identities. My only solace is that more people seem to be waking up to how ineffective and self-absorbed many social justice circles are. Unfortunately, some want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and swing to the other extreme, as if sexism and racism and such don't exist or are highly exaggerated. But hopefully we can find a middle path where we look at the big picture instead of a mess of confessionals, therapy speak, and knee-jerk idiocy like men bad. Stories number 18. When you invite a guy over first time, do you notice this? I really couldn't define it at the time. He walks in and gives off this aura of, oh, look at your cute little place. Your perfect little life as a single woman. Too bad you still need my dick in your life. It's also how they approach you for sex the first time, this smugness. I just want to know who else has felt this. 2 guys I was dating acted like this, and I didn't know what it was. Now in retrospect I do. If you know a guy like this, turn him away. He feels threatened by anyone, male or female, who has their life together. He wants to dominate people like that to avoid feeling his own smallness. That's the psychology. Look for this vibe. It's the vibe they give off as soon as they make it into the front door, and it becomes way more pronounced upon the first sexual encounter. If this isn't toxic masculinity, then I really don't know what is. The craving, desire, or need for a partner puts the biggest set of blinders on people, male or female. This is why they say, literally anyone can end up in a bad relationship. All you're at fault for is wanting to love someone, and to be loved. Take care and stay safe out there. Your home is your sanctuary. Don't let users and abusers into your own space, which is sacred. Comments? Commenter 1. I haven't had this experience, but I drop people very quickly who seem smug, condescending, or otherwise lack genuine curiosity about me. Just because I invite someone over doesn't mean it's an automatic score either. Kick them out if they're being assholes. Commenter 2. I had a guy I dated for a few months remark something like, "It's like you have your own entire world going on." Like he noticed something existing outside of him for the first time. Commenter 3. This was my last date. I also didn't love that he didn't help tidy up our food after we ate. Left me with lots of mess. Commenter 4. It takes me a super long time to trust someone enough to invite them to my home. So I've never had it happen at home, but I've had it happen on dates. Some dudes just think because they are men, they are better than women. I do not go on second dates with those dudes. Stories number 19. AITA for embarrassing my mom at family dinner. I, 22F, have been overweight my whole life. It's been something I struggle with a lot because I have ADHD and would use food to balance my feelings a lot. At the same time, I've always struggled with food noise, where my mind is constantly thinking about my next meal or snacks, not to try and excuse my weight, but it explains why I so easily got to where I am. I'm now working to lose weight with a dietitian and my BF supporting me the whole way. As of today, I've lost 5 libs yesterday. My parents drove across the country to visit everyone as most of my siblings attend the same college as me. And most of the extended family lives here as well. Basically, I don't see my parents often because they live so far away. During dinner we were catching up. I talked about the projects I've done for school and how I joined my city's women's hockey team. I always wanted to do hockey and got the chance to, so I was really excited. That's when the comments from my mom started. She said that it was good I was doing a sport to take off that college weight. My mom has made comments my whole life. As a result, I often hear her voice in my head talking about my weight whenever I work out or hit the ice. It's gotten worse now that I'm putting more effort into my health. I asked her to not mention my weight because it was not important. The night went on. My siblings and I joked about having to walk up the steep hill just to get to class. Then my mom said it would be easier to walk if I lost weight. My mom and I started arguing with me telling her to stop talking about my weight, and her defense was that she was worried about my health. Here's where I may be TA, I said. Why should I buy you anything if you're just going to die anyways? The context for that question comes from when I was 16. I needed new jeans due to regular wear and tear. On the drive to the store, my mom kept going on and on about my weight. She asked if I cared about living or dying, then asked that question. I remember that drive vividly even 6 years later. She looked confused, so I repeated myself and the context for it. She got upset and my grandparents looked shocked. Even my dad, I continued, stating that I've always hated myself and my weight, and I'm desperately trying to love myself without constantly hearing her voice in my head. That I don't talk to her because I know she's always going to find a way to make the conversation about my weight. I got up and left, crying the whole way home. Instead of digging into some ice cream, my BF took me for a walk around a nearby park and held me while I cried. I finally explained the whole context to him, and he was angry because I've never fully explained my weight issues from my past. It was really reassuring because my mom would often say I'd never find love with my weight. Ever since then, my phone has been blowing up with texts from family edit. Thank you for all the support. It's easy for me to forget that I'm worthy after so many years of being told I'm not. I finally called my mom while my BF held my hand. The conversation started off rocky, but gradually got a little better. I told her the whole story of how I've felt through all these years. From the boiled egg and salad diet she forced me on at 11, to the constantly trying weird Pinterest miracle weight loss hacks that came up after that. I told her how I didn't even understand what a calorie was, or why she was upset at the number on the scale. I told her how I spent all of 10th grade starving myself and then gaining it all back because the only thing that kept me going was her hateful voice, despite constantly falling asleep in school. I told her how I've been in and out of therapy, just making sure I healed enough to not want to starve myself when I did try to lose weight again. She apologized with one of her fake ass, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Apologizes. I told her I'm not going to talk to her until she can get help for her own issues because I know she's often projecting her own health issues. My mom was overweight when I was younger, but I know she's still spending a lot of money to drink those meal replacement drinks. Thank you all again for the support. I'm gonna keep fighting to get my health in order. I honestly expected a lot more hate, but thankfully, it was just one guy who really thought I was responsible for my weight at 8 years old. Bro really saw a story about a fat person and said, "I'm TA simply because I'm fat, and because I'm fat. That's why the argument existed in the first place." Forgot how much visceral hatred some people have for fat people. It's really sad. Comments. Commenter 1. Your mom needs to stop verbally abusing you about your weight and either hold her nasty opinions to herself or help you with controlling your diet like a normal, supportive parent would. She seems to enjoy tearing your self-confidence down ever since you were a minor. That is abuse and you don't have to stand for it. You bit back this time. And it seems like your mom had that coming for a long time. If she can't take it, she shouldn't dish it out. NTA, tell your mom she is behaving in a despicable way. Also, awesome that you lost the 5 LDs. Keep going, you got this. Are you using fidgets, BTW? I find they help me with food noise as well as anxiety. It can take a bit of trying to find the right type of fidget that clicks for your brain. They didn't do anything for me. Until I found magnetic fidgets. Reply, fidgets are a good idea. Right now, my main distraction from the noise is spending too much time gaming, which I can't do because I have a ton of homework to do all the time. Right now I got some squishy fidgets, but they don't do much. I remember a little spinny ring helped me when I was in high school. Commenter 2NTA. Not that it matters. But I am so proud of you. You said exactly what needed to be said to your mother, and because of her behavior, in exactly the right time and place, I imagine that it was really hard to do. But you did it. She needed to hear it, so do not apologize. You did nothing wrong, you are doing well for yourself. Keep looking forward, commenter 3NTA, and you know what? You have 2 wins to take away from this horrible incident. 1, you didn't use food to comfort yourself. 2, you opened up to your boyfriend and got support from him, disproving your mother's assertion that you are not lovable. Ignore your family, no need to read those texts now or ever. Protect your mental health as much as your physical health. Commenter 4NTA. Your mom had it coming and was asking for it. Negative remarks like that are no good to anyone. She needs to take a good hard look at herself to find the reason why she feels the need to make you feel like crap about your weight. Congratulations on losing 5 pounds. I was over 200 pounds during the worst time of my life, and losing that weight did wonders for my mental health. I had less self-depreciating thoughts and felt more confident. Keep going, and soon the food noise will finally shush. Also a big congratulations on getting to play hockey. I wanted to when I was younger but was told no several times by my father because according to him, that's a man's sport. I'd go NC with your mother until she can dust off some of her manners. Stories number 20. Aita, if I report a nurse for asking for my number during a procedure? I-21F had an EMG this morning. It's a test where they use little needles and electrodes to check how your nerves and muscles work. It's already a vulnerable situation since you're laying down in a cold room in a backless gown and can't really leave in the middle. And on top of that, I have anxiety as well, and I didn't bring anyone to the appointment with me like I usually do. The nurse who was doing the first part of the test, the electrodes part BC, the actual doctor does the needles, made me really uncomfortable. He kept flirting and asking me out even though I tried to shut it down. Just a few of his comments are listed here. I couldn't remember them all after the fact. I'm also a personal trainer. Maybe I can help you stretch sometime. Am I charming you? Am I making you nervous? I want to show you around the city. Maybe we could get together and find a nice spot. Can I get your number? You're so beautiful. You have such a beautiful skin complexion, like a Nubian or Egyptian. Where are you from? Why don't you date? Why are you single? I want to take you driving. When I explained I'm happy single and don't want to casually date for religious reasons, he said, you never know. Maybe if you find the right person. I'd love to show you around. He also commented on old scars on my arm. They're clearly old SH scars. Literally no other medical professional has ever brought them up. Not even the neurologist that came in right after him. So that felt like he was violating my privacy. At some points he even held onto my arm in a way that made me really uncomfortable. For context, I've never had a boyfriend, never even held hands with anyone, and I'd never even gotten male attention until recently. I also have really bad anxiety, and during the appointment I kind of shut down and couldn't think straight. He was clearly older than me, and I felt really vulnerable the whole time. I tried to redirect the conversation, but he kept pushing. At the end he asked for my Instagram. I said I don't really use it, but he kept at me, you don't want to go on a date, so at least give me that much. You should hit me up sometime. So I gave him my public account and blocked him as soon as I got to my car. I felt so nauseous and guilty sitting in my car, especially because I kept engaging with him and responding to his questions. I feel like I should have said something about how he was making me feel weird, or asked for another nurse, or even complained to the doctor, but I didn't know what to do. I feel like I should have stood up for myself. But on the other hand, I couldn't even think straight and I was so panicky. Now, on one hand, this felt super unprofessional, inappropriate, and unethical. I don't want other people to be put in that position. On the other, I feel bad about potentially affecting his income, job, especially with how things are in the economy right now. And I'm also worried about the possibility that he has access to and can see all of my medical information and personal info. I have no idea what to do. and I'd really like some input or advice from someone who works in the field or has experienced this before. Sorry if this is not nicely written or is kinda repetitive. I literally just got home, and I hurried to come post this ASAP relevant comments. Commenter 1. Report them. Commenter 2. OP. You should definitely report. This is completely inappropriate. EMG techs are not nurses, so it's not the Board of Nursing. The link is to their certifying body. Reply, thank you. This was a really big help. I had just assumed that he was a nurse, but it's good to know what his actual job title is. Commenter 3, NTA. It's incredibly unprofessional that he was hitting on you and asking you personal questions about your scars while working as a healthcare provider. Reporting him is the right move, so that he doesn't do it to other patients. Commenter 4. Based on what he was doing, I'd be surprised if he was a nurse. Sounds more like a procedure tech or assistant. As a registered nurse, I am quick to point out that not everyone in healthcare is a nurse, and would ask for caution in categorizing such. Yes, he sounds like a jerk, and definitely needs to be reported and followed up on. Commenter 5. Report him immediately. He didn't feel concerned about risking his job to harass you repeatedly. You should feel safe and secure in your doctor's office. Update. Thank you all for your comments. I really appreciate the advice and as well as the support. I sent an official complaint to their HR office, and I'm on hold with the patient advocate right now. I really hope that they can make it so that guy can never do this again to anyone. Someone in the comments said to see if I can report him to the state board, so I'm gonna do that next. Thank you. Final update. Okay, so this got a lot bigger than I expected. I usually just lurk on here, but I just want to say thank you again for all your advice, and that reading through all your comments has made me feel a whole lot better. Also, thank you to everyone who corrected me. It turns out he is an EMG tech, not a nurse. Good news, though. They identified him, and I have a meeting tomorrow with the Director of Patient Services for that facility to discuss the matter further. And I'm also going to report him to the ABEM, like one of you suggested. Have a good night, everyone, and stay safe. 3 stories number 21. My coworker forgot their lunch and asked for mine. But I said no and ate it anyway, so this happened last week. But it's still circling in my head and honestly making me wonder if I came off as a total jerk. I work at a mid-sized marketing firm in Ohio. The office is about 50 people, split between different departments. But it's one of those places where you know everyone's name and who usually eats in the break room. I've been here about 4 years now, and for the most part, I get along with everyone. I'm not best friends with my coworkers, but I'm polite, professional, and I keep to myself. Anyway, lunch is kind of my sacred time at work. I'm on the graphic design team, which means mornings are usually back-to-back meetings and brainstorming sessions where everyone throws around chaotic ideas. By noon, my brain feels like scrambled eggs, and the only thing that keeps me sane is looking forward to the meal I packed. This particular day, I had made myself a chicken pesto sandwich on sourdough, with roasted red peppers, fresh mozzarella, and a side of pasta salad. I'd been craving it all morning. I'm not exaggerating when I say I could practically smell it from my desk. When noon rolled around, I walked into the break room and saw that most people were already sitting down. My coworker Daniel was standing by the fridge with this defeated look on his face. He's fairly new, been here maybe 8 months. He's 29, pretty tall, friendly enough, though I've noticed he tends to lean on others for help a lot. Like, he's the guy who forgets his charger and asks if anyone has an extra, or he'll borrow pens and never return them. It's not malicious, just careless. So Daniel sees me with my lunch bag and immediately goes, "Oh man, you brought food? I totally forgot mine today." I kinda chuckled politely and said, "That sucks, man." I thought that was the end of it. But then he looked directly at me and asked, "Can I have yours?" Now, to be clear, he didn't ask if I had extra or if I could spare some. He literally meant the whole thing. My sandwich, my pasta salad, everything. I froze for a second because it felt like such a weird request. Like, who asks someone to just hand over their entire meal? I half laughed and said, "Sorry, I'm really hungry. I packed this for me." He tried to play it off with, "Come on, you look like you could share. It's just one meal." The way he said it rubbed me the wrong way. It wasn't even an, "I'll pay you back," or "I'll run to the vending machine and trade you something." It was this entitled assumption that because I had food, I should be willing to give it to him. I shook my head and said, "Nah, I need this. I didn't eat breakfast." And then I just sat down and unwrapped my sandwich. Daniel sighed dramatically, muttered something like, "Unbelievable," and grabbed a cup of coffee instead. A couple people in the break room looked up but didn't say anything. Here's where it got worse. Later that afternoon, I overheard Daniel at the printer talking to two other co-workers, Samantha and Jordan, saying, "Yeah, I forgot my lunch and Alex wouldn't even share. Just ate it in front of me." He made it sound like I was this cruel, selfish person who refused to help a starving man. Samantha gave me this side-eye when I walked past, and Jordan just laughed and said, "Rough day, huh?" But I could tell they thought I was being stingy. It spiraled from there. The next day, another co-worker, Jenna, half-joked, "Hey, Alex, if I forget my lunch, are you gonna let me starve too?" She said it in a teasing tone, but it stung. I don't think I did anything wrong. I mean, I'm responsible for my own meals. I planned ahead, packed my food, and was hungry. Daniel is an adult with a car and money. He could have easily gone down the street to grab something. There's a deli literally 3 blocks away, plus a vending machine downstairs with snacks. It's not like I was his only option for survival. But the way people started whispering about it makes me wonder if I broke some unspoken co-worker kindness rule. To add more context, Daniel has done this before. Not to me, but to others. I remembered later that about a month ago, he asked Hannah from accounting if she could spare her salad. She laughed it off and gave him her breadsticks. But I remember thinking at the time that it was odd. Apparently, he's tried it with a few people. Some cave in and give him something, others don't. I'm the first one, as far as I know, who flat out refused, and then ate in front of him. Now I feel like I have this selfish label at work. Emily, another designer on my team, told me quietly, "Don't let him guilt trip you. He does this a lot. People just give him stuff so he shuts up." That made me feel a little better. But still, it's uncomfortable knowing people might think I'm the bad guy for, eating the food I packed for myself. That night I vented to my girlfriend, Rachel, and she was firmly on my side. She said, "He's a grown man, not a toddler. He can handle his own lunch." But she also admitted she would have felt awkward eating in front of him after saying no. And honestly, I did feel awkward. The whole break room was quiet except for me unwrapping and chewing. It felt like I was rubbing it in, even though I wasn't trying to. Since then, Daniel has been short with me. Not hostile, but colder. He doesn't make small talk like he used to, and he hasn't asked me for anything since, which honestly might be a blessing. Still, I can't shake the feeling that I might have been harsher than necessary. Should I have at least offered him half my sandwich? Or a few bites of the pasta salad? I don't know, but I also know I was starving, and if I'd given half away, I would have been cranky and unfocused the rest of the day. It just feels weird that such a small thing blew up like this. It's not about a sandwich anymore. It's about whether I came across as selfish, or if Daniel is just manipulative and used to getting his way when he whines. Either way, I learned something. Never underestimate how dramatic an office can get over lunch. Update. Well, I didn't expect a sandwich to create weeks of office politics. But here we are. After I posted, I figured the situation would die down. Like, Daniel forgot his lunch. I didn't give him mine. And that would be the end of it. People gossip in offices all the time, right? Wrong, apparently, in my office. Gossip lingers like a bad smell. And Daniel is the kind of guy who thrives on playing the poor me card. The Monday after my original post, I walked into the break room to microwave some leftover lasagna. Daniel was already in there, leaning against the counter, talking to Samantha. He didn't acknowledge me, which was fine. I wasn't looking for a conversation, but right as I opened the microwave, he muttered just loud enough for me to hear, "Guess I shouldn't even bother asking for food around here." Samantha giggled awkwardly, and I just ignored it. But that set the tone for the week. Every time Daniel was around, he'd make some little comment. "Don't worry, I won't touch your stuff. Must be nice to always have your meals sorted out. I forgot breakfast this morning, but hey, I wouldn't want to impose. It was so passive-aggressive that even a few coworkers started rolling their eyes when he did it. By Wednesday, I'd had enough and pulled him aside. I said, "Look, Daniel, I'm not sure why you're holding on to this lunch thing, but it's getting old. You forgot your food. I ate mine." End of story. He kind of shrugged and said, "Yeah, but it just showed me what kind of person you are." That one hit me harder than I expected. What kind of person am I? The kind who eats the food I packed? The kind who doesn't enable a grown man to mooch? I didn't know what to say, so I just walked away. Later that day, I vented to Emily, my teammate, who warned me he does this often. She told me something that floored me. Apparently, Daniel had actually gone to HR a few months ago because another coworker, Hannah, made him feel excluded when she didn't share snacks. HR didn't take it seriously, obviously, but Emily said Daniel is one of those people who believes kindness equals sharing everything. That made me paranoid. I started thinking, is he going to run to HR about me? Is this stupid sandwich thing going to end up on my employee file? Sure enough, Friday morning I got an email from HR. "Hi Alex, can we schedule a quick chat?" My stomach dropped. I went in that afternoon, and the HR rep, Melissa, asked me about a situation involving food and a coworker. I almost laughed. She explained that Daniel had expressed concerns about a lack of teamwork and empathy. I told her exactly what happened. Daniel forgot his lunch, asked for mine, I said no, and then he started making passive-aggressive comments about it. Melissa raised her eyebrows and said, "So you did provide your perspective?" And he continued to bring it up? I nodded and she sighed. "Okay, this isn't a disciplinary issue. You're not obligated to give anyone your food, but I'd encourage you to maintain professionalism and not escalate." Basically, HR speak for, "We know Daniel's being a pain, but please don't add fuel to the fire." After that meeting, I was so irritated that I actually skipped the break room for a week. I started eating at my desk or in my car just to avoid the drama. It felt ridiculous, like I was in high school hiding from the mean kids. But here's the twist. Other people started noticing Daniel's behavior too. One day I walked past and overheard Jordan say to him, "Dude, let it go, nobody owes you lunch." Apparently, a few people have gotten tired of his martyr act. Then something happened that made me realize I wasn't crazy for drawing the line. Last week, Daniel cornered a different coworker, Evan, because Evan had ordered takeout from Chipotle. Daniel didn't order anything. But when the delivery came, he straight up asked Evan for half his burrito bowl. Evan laughed and said, "No way, man, I ordered this for me." And Daniel? He actually sulked, like, visibly sulked in the break room, saying stuff like, "People don't look out for each other anymore." That incident spread like wildfire. By the next day, everyone was joking about guarding their food from Daniel. I heard someone say, "Better eat fast before Daniel shows up." People laughed, and I finally felt like the attention was off me. But Daniel didn't take it well. He's been quieter since then, but I've caught him giving me side-eye in meetings, like I betrayed him or something. The final straw came 2 days ago. I was eating a simple turkey wrap at my desk when he walked by and said, "You know, you could have just been a good person that day, and none of this would have happened," I snapped. I said, "Daniel, I am a good person. Being a good person doesn't mean giving you my food every time you forget yours. Grow up and take responsibility for yourself." He just stared at me, then walked away without saying a word. And honestly, I don't regret it, because someone had to say it out loud. Now things are tense. He's still polite in meetings, but there's definitely bad blood. A few coworkers have pulled me aside to say they agree with me, but they also admitted they're glad it wasn't them who had to confront him. So that's where things stand. All of this because of a damn sandwich. I keep thinking back to that first day. How awkward it felt unwrapping my food while he watched. If I had just caved and given him half, would it have saved me weeks of drama? Maybe. But it also would have set the precedent that I'm his personal lunch backup. And I'm not willing to live like that. At the end of the day, we're all adults. We're responsible for our own meals. And if Daniel can't figure that out, Maybe he'll keep running into people who tell him no until he learns. But holy hell, I never thought I'd need HR because of a sandwich. Final update. I honestly can't believe I'm writing a third installment about a sandwich. But this saga finally came to some kind of conclusion. And I feel like I owe it to everyone who stuck through the ridiculousness. So after my last update, things stayed tense with Daniel for a few weeks. He'd keep it civil in meetings, but every so often he'd slip in these passive-aggressive digs, usually in front of other people, stuff like, "Some people only look out for themselves. Guess it's survival of the fittest around here. Not everyone's a team player, I guess." It was always vague enough that he couldn't be called out directly, but everyone knew what he was referencing. It got to the point where I dreaded walking into the break room, because I never knew if I'd be the target of some sarcastic remark while I was just trying to eat in peace. But here's where things started shifting. Daniel eventually overplayed his hand. One afternoon, the office had one of those catered lunch and learn events where a local sandwich shop delivered trays of subs, chips, and cookies. Everyone was supposed to take one sandwich and a bag of chips. Daniel, being Daniel, decided to load his plate with 3 sandwiches and 2 bags of chips because he didn't have breakfast. When our manager, Laura, saw this, she actually told him to put 2 sandwiches back so others could eat. He sighed loudly and muttered, "Figures, nobody cares if I'm hungry." And the entire room just groaned. People were fed up. Someone actually said, "Jesus, Daniel, it's food, not a human rights violation." That moment was like the turning point. Suddenly, it wasn't me versus Daniel anymore. It was Daniel versus the whole office. His little victim act wasn't cute anymore, and everyone started to recognize the pattern. Then the kicker. A week later, he actually sent out an all-staff email asking if anyone had extra food they'd be willing to share because he'd left his wallet at home. People screenshot it and sent it around privately because it was so absurd. One of the accounting guys, Matt, replied all with, "There's a vending machine on the first floor." That was basically the nail in the coffin. HR called him in again. I don't know what was said, but word got around that Daniel was strongly encouraged to bring his own lunch or make alternative arrangements instead of soliciting from coworkers. After that, Daniel became noticeably quieter. He stopped making comments in the break room, stopped cornering people, and just ate whatever he brought or sometimes just coffee. He was still frosty with me, but the public jabs ended. Honestly, I think HR put him on notice, and he realized he was skating on thin ice. Then, plot twist, about a month later, he quit. He told a few people he'd found a better opportunity closer to home, but based on the timing and the vibe, I think he was embarrassed and tired of being the office punchline. People wished him well, but I didn't hear anyone say they were sad to see him go. Since he left, the office has felt lighter. Lunches, just lunch again, no drama, no guilt trips, no HR emails. I sit in the break room now without feeling like I'm on trial for eating the food I packed. A funny epilogue. At Daniel's going-away lunch, yes, the office threw him one. Ironic, I know. Our boss Laura made a little speech about wishing him well. Someone cracked a joke under their breath. "Don't forget your lunch at the new job." A few people laughed, including me, and even Laura smirked. Daniel didn't respond, just forced a smile. That was the last time I saw him. Looking back, the whole situation feels surreal. All of this stress, HR involvement, gossip, and tension over a single sandwich I didn't give away. If I'd caved that first day and handed it to him, maybe none of this would have happened. But then again, maybe it would have just delayed the inevitable. Because clearly this was his pattern. He'd been doing it with other people already. And eventually someone was going to tell him no. I talked about it with Rachel, my girlfriend, and she pointed out something I hadn't thought of. Daniel wasn't really asking for food. He was testing boundaries, seeing who would give in. And when I didn't, it rattled him. That's why he kept pushing. It wasn't about being hungry. It was about control and attention. That clicked for me. Because honestly, Daniel had a decent salary. He wasn't destitute. He wasn't struggling to afford meals. He just didn't plan ahead and expected other people to bail him out. And when I refused, it bruised his ego. Now, months later, I don't regret saying no. It was uncomfortable, it created drama, but I stood my ground. And in the end, it showed me something important. Sometimes people will try to make you feel guilty for having boundaries. But that doesn't mean you're wrong, so yeah. This is officially the end of the sandwich saga. Daniel's gone, the office has moved on, and I can finally eat my food without wondering if it's going to end up as a workplace scandal. And if anyone out there ever finds themselves in a similar situation, eat your lunch. Don't let guilt or manipulation convince you otherwise. Because trust me, once you give someone like Daniel an inch, they'll take your whole sandwich. Stories number 22. My sister's boyfriend showed up uninvited at my apartment, and I said no, so this whole thing started a few months back. But the fallout hasn't really slowed down. I'm still trying to figure out if I handled it right, or if I'm just being stubborn. For context, I live alone in a small one-bedroom apartment in Indianapolis. I work in IT, and honestly, I really like my little setup. I've got my routines. Finish work, hit the gym, come home, make dinner, maybe hop on Discord with some friends or watch a show. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. Privacy is a big thing for me, and I pay good money to have it. My younger sister, Emily, is 25 and dating this guy named Tyler. They've been together maybe a year and a half, and to put it lightly, he and I don't really mesh. Tyler's the kind of guy who thinks he's everyone's buddy, but it comes off as pushy. He makes jokes at other people's expense, overshares, kind of treats himself like the center of the universe. He's not evil or anything, just one of those people who drains the room. Emily is head over heels, though, so I've been trying to keep my mouth shut and be civil. Anyway, a few months ago, on a random Tuesday evening, I hear a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I look through the peephole. Lo and behold, it's Tyler. He's standing there with a backpack slung over his shoulder like he's just gotten back from a trip. I open the door and go, hey, what's up? He grins and says, Emily told me you wouldn't mind if I crashed here for a couple days. My roommate's being a total ass, and I need space. Now, mind you, this is the first I'm hearing about it. Emily never called, never texted, nothing, and suddenly, Tyler is at my door with a bag expecting to stay. I kind of blink at him and say, hold on, I didn't agree to this. Tyler laughs like I'm joking and just starts stepping inside. I block the door. He's like, come on, man. Don't be like that. Emily said you'd be cool. At this point, I'm irritated. It's not just the surprise. It's the entitlement. He didn't ask me. Emily didn't ask me. He just showed up assuming I'd let him in. I tell him flat out, no, you can't just show up here uninvited. I like my space. You'll have to figure something else out. His smile drops and he goes, are you serious? It's just for a couple days. Me. That's not the point. You didn't even ask me. I'm not comfortable with this. He stares at me for a second, mutters something under his breath about me being uptight, and storms off down the hall. Not 5 minutes later, my phone starts blowing up with texts from Emily. Stuff like, why did you send Tyler away? He needed a place. Your family. You're being selfish. It wouldn't kill you to help for once. I call her back and explain. He showed up unannounced with a bag. You didn't even ask me. That's not okay. Emily goes off about how I'm cold and don't care about family. She says Tyler's roommate kicked him out, and he didn't have anywhere else to go. I say, that sucks. But it's not my responsibility to drop everything just because he decided to show up. If you wanted me to help, you should have asked me beforehand. Not send him over like I'm some hotel. She hangs up on me. For the next week, she barely talks to me. When she does, it's short. Passive-aggressive stuff. Tyler, apparently, ended up staying with another friend. But the tension between Emily and me didn't go away. Fast forward a couple weeks, we're at a family dinner at our parents' house. Things are normal until Emily brings up, some people in this family can't even open their doors when someone needs them. Tyler smirks. My mom looks confused, and I can feel everyone's eyes on me. I finally say, if you're talking about me, say it directly. Tyler showed up uninvited at my apartment with no warning. I'm not wrong for saying no. The table goes quiet. My dad kind of clears his throat and says, well, people should communicate better before assuming things. My mom tries to change the subject, But Emily looks furious. Tyler makes this dramatic. Guess I know where I stand, comment, and the rest of the dinner is awkward. Afterward, my dad quietly tells me he gets my side, but maybe I could have handled it with more grace. Which, I guess. But how graceful can you be when someone just shows up at your front door with luggage? Since then, Emily and I have barely spoken. When we do, she always brings it back to how I embarrassed her boyfriend. Tyler, from what I hear, still complains about me to mutual friends. He apparently calls me the landlord because I guard my apartment like Fort Knox. I'm honestly torn. On one hand, I feel like I had every right to say no. My home is my space. I don't owe Tyler a bed just because he's dating my sister. On the other hand, Emily is family. And I hate the rift this caused. My girlfriend, Rachel, told me point blank, "You weren't wrong, you're allowed to say no. The fact that Emily didn't ask you first is on her, not you." My best friend Marcus agrees. But my mom keeps hinting that family should stick together. And it's just a couple days. It's been months now, and the tension hasn't fully gone away. Emily will still take little digs at me in group chats. And Tyler refuses to even look at me when we're in the same room. I keep wondering if I should just apologize to smooth things over, even though I don't think I did anything wrong. At the end of the day, I said no because my space matters to me. But I can't shake the guilt that maybe I should have just let him crash for one night and avoided all of this drama. So I didn't think this would need an update, but wow! It spiraled a lot more than I expected. After that family dinner where Emily basically ambushed me with the whole "you embarrassed Tyler" thing, we didn't talk much, but about 3 weeks ago, it came to a head in a way I honestly couldn't believe. It was a Friday night. I'd just gotten home from work, ordered takeout, and was in the middle of watching a game when there was a knock at my door. My stomach dropped immediately because I had a weird sense it was Tyler again. Sure enough, I looked through the peephole. There he is, standing with his phone in his hand like he's been texting someone. I didn't open the door right away. I texted Emily, "Why is Tyler at my apartment again?" She responds, "He just needed a ride and said he was nearby chill, but he wasn't just there for a ride. He knocked again, harder this time." I opened the door just a crack and said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Yo, I just need to crash for tonight." My buddy flaked and Emily's apartment is packed with her roommates. I just stared at him. Like déjà vu, same situation, different excuse, and again. He didn't ask me beforehand. Emily didn't ask me. He just showed up, I told him. "No, we've been through this. You don't get to invite yourself into my place." He rolled his eyes and muttered, "Man, you're seriously unbelievable." Then he tries to guilt me. "It's one night. You've got the space. Why are you making this a big deal?" I said, "Because it's my home, I set boundaries, and you keep ignoring them." At this point, he actually raised his voice. He's like, "Do you know how pathetic this is? You're acting like letting me crash on your couch is some huge invasion. Emily's right. You've got no sense of family." That one stung, not because it was true, but because that's Emily's line. I realized they'd clearly been talking about me behind my back more than I thought, so I shut it down. I said, "I don't care what Emily said. Get off my doorstep and don't come here uninvited again." Then I closed the door on him. He stood there a minute, knocked once more, then stomped off. Not 10 minutes later, my phone starts blowing up with Emily again. "You couldn't just let him stay one night? You're making this into a bigger problem than it needs to be. Tyler thinks you hate him. Is that what this is about?" I called her back, and for the first time I lost my temper. I told her, "Emily, I don't hate him. I don't like him, sure, but that's not the point. You both are crossing my boundaries. He doesn't live here. He doesn't get to just show up whenever he wants. And the fact that you think it's fine to send him over without asking me first? That's disrespectful to me, to my space, to my life." Emily tried to spin it like, "You're acting dramatic. It's just a couch. It's not like he's moving in." But I cut her off and said, "The difference between asking and assuming is everything. If you can't get that, then maybe you don't respect me as much as I thought." She hung up again. The fallout this time was worse. Emily went and told my parents that I'd kicked Tyler out onto the street. My mom actually called me the next morning, saying, "Honey, couldn't you have just let him stay one night?" "He's struggling," my dad chimed in later that day with, "Sometimes being part of a family means inconveniencing yourself." I snapped back at both of them. I said, "So being part of a family means having zero boundaries? It means I just open my home to whoever, whenever, because they're dating my sister? No, that's not how it works. If Emily needed help, if she called me herself and explained, I'd think about it. But Tyler has no right to show up at my door like that." That's when my dad finally admitted, "You're not wrong about the boundary part, but you could ease up on your tone." Tone. Always tone. Nobody ever looks at Tyler's behavior. It's just how I respond. The kicker came a few days later. Emily posted some vague status on Facebook about family who don't act like family and people who put their comfort above compassion. Of course, Tyler liked and commented with some smug emoji, and wouldn't you know it, some extended relatives chimed in like, "That's so sad. Some people just don't get it." So now this private disagreement is essentially being aired to cousins and aunts. I didn't comment, I didn't take the bait. But I screenshotted it, because honestly, it was so unfair. The only person who's been firmly in my corner has been Rachel. She told me straight, "They're trying to manipulate you. Tyler knows he can't ask you directly because you'll say no, so he keeps putting Emily in the middle. And Emily keeps enabling it because she doesn't want to tell him no herself." That hit hard, because she's right. Emily's always been the kind of person who avoids conflict. She hates saying no to anyone, so she lets Tyler bulldoze. And then she puts the responsibility on me to be the bad guy. At this point, I've told Emily that if Tyler shows up at my door again uninvited, I'm not even opening it. I'll call the building security if I have to. She said that's extreme. I said no, that's called enforcing a boundary. The weird part is, I've noticed since then that Tyler keeps trying to push other lines, like he'll make jokes in front of family about crashing with us anytime, or about how I'm such a fortress. It's like he gets off on trying to provoke me. And Emily, she keeps defending him. I don't know if it's because she really believes he's in the right, or if she's just that wrapped up in him. Either way, the update is this. Things have gotten colder. I don't go to as many family dinners anymore because I know Tyler will be there. Rachel says it's probably best for my sanity to stay away until Emily realizes how bad this looks. My mom keeps trying to mediate, but every time she does, it feels like she just wants me to cave. I don't know where it ends. I love my sister, but if this is the hill she wants to die on, then maybe some distance is the only option. It's been a while since my last update, and I honestly wasn't sure if I was going to write this. Things went downhill hard, and then, weirdly, turned a corner I didn't expect. After the second time Tyler showed up at my apartment and I told Emily point blank that he wasn't welcome to just drop in, I thought maybe things would settle. Like maybe they'd be mad, but they'd get the point. Nope. Tyler's not the type to just let things go. About 3 weeks after that blow-up, there was this family barbecue at my parents' house. I hadn't planned to go, but my mom called me 3 different times, saying, "Please come, we're family. This shouldn't tear us apart." Against my better judgment, I went. Rachel came with me for moral support. We get there, and it's already tense. Emily's giving me the cold shoulder. Tyler's strutting around like he owns the place. He's the kind of guy who cracks open a beer and immediately starts holding court with the uncles, talking over people, making himself the center of every story. At first I just kept my distance, hung out near the grill with my dad, chatted with cousins, tried to keep it light. But as the evening went on, Tyler started making digs at me. Not even subtle ones. First it was, "Man, wish I had a couch as comfy as OP's. Too bad I'm not allowed to touch it." Everyone laughed awkwardly. Then it was, "You know, some people act like they're guarding Fort Knox when all they've got is a futon and a TV from Best Buy." I could feel Rachel squeeze my hand under the table like, "Don't take the bait." But then he pushed it further. He looks directly at me and says, "Hey, you don't mind if I crash here tonight, right? I mean, we're family now. Can't say no to that." The whole table goes silent. Emily looks mortified, but she doesn't say anything. My mom mutters, Tyler, in that warning tone, but he just smirks. That was it for me. I put down my fork, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "You think this is funny, Tyler? Because it's not. You've disrespected me and my home multiple times, and now you're turning it into some family joke? Let me make it clear, since you don't seem to get it. You are never welcome at my apartment. Not for one night. Not for 1 hour, not even for 5 minutes. And the fact that you keep pushing after I've said no tells me you don't respect me at all. You could have heard a pin drop. My mom tried to jump in with, 'Let's not do this at dinner.' But I cut her off and said, 'No, we are doing this. Because I'm done being made out to be the villain for setting a basic boundary, Tyler. You are not entitled to my space. And Emily, I love you. But if you keep defending this behavior, you're enabling him.' Emily finally snapped back, tears in her eyes. 'Why are you making this about me? He just needed help, and you made it a whole war,' I said. 'Because you keep sending him to me instead of telling him no yourself. You make me the bad guy so you don't have to. That's not fair.' At this point, Tyler starts raising his voice at me, saying stuff like, 'You think you're so high and mighty because you've got your little apartment and your precious rules? You're just selfish. No wonder Emily's always upset after talking to you.' Rachel finally stepped in. She goes, 'Selfish. You've been mooching off everyone around you and then throwing tantrums when you don't get your way. You don't respect OP. You don't respect Emily, and honestly, you don't respect this family either. You just want everyone to cater to you.' Tyler tried to laugh it off, but nobody at the table laughed with him this time. My dad, who had been quiet up until now, suddenly said, 'Enough, Tyler. You've crossed the line more than once. This isn't your house. This isn't your family. And if you can't treat my son with respect, then you're not welcome here either.' That shut him up. Emily started crying and ran inside. My mom followed her. Tyler muttered something about, 'This is ridiculous,' and left the barbecue altogether. The rest of the evening was weird. Everyone was walking on eggshells. But the one surprising thing? My dad came up to me later and said, 'I should have backed you up sooner. You're right. Your home is your space. Tyler's behavior has been out of line. For the first time in months, I felt like someone actually saw my side without telling me to change my tone.' The fallout after that night was rough. Emily didn't talk to me for weeks. She eventually texted me saying, 'You humiliated him.' 'I don't know if I can forgive you,' I told her. 'I didn't humiliate him. He humiliated himself by refusing to take no for an answer. I'm done apologizing for defending my boundaries.' Since then, Emily and Tyler have been rocky. I don't know if they'll last. Honestly, I don't think they should, but that's her choice. What I do know is that Tyler hasn't tried to contact me since. No knocks at my door. No texts. Nothing. It sucks that my relationship with my sister is strained. I hate that it came to this. But I've realized something. If the only way to keep peace in my family is to sacrifice my boundaries and let people walk all over me, then that's not peace. That's just silence. Rachel told me she's proud of me for standing firm. My best friend Marcus said the same thing. Even my dad has been more supportive lately, which feels like progress. My mom, she's still in that, but can't we all just get along phase. I love her. But I've had to accept she'll always prioritize harmony over truth. So yeah, that's where we're at. I stood my ground. Tyler's out of my hair. Emily's still upset. But maybe someday she'll realize this wasn't about me being cold. It was about me refusing to be disrespected. And if she doesn't, well, I can live with that, because at the end of the day, my apartment door is mine to open or to keep closed, and no amount of family guilt tripping is going to change that. Stories number 23. A woman from my village has been kept as captive for 40 years now. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write something like this online. But here we are. This story has been weighing on me for weeks, and I feel like I need to put it somewhere outside my own head. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. The kind where everyone knows everyone. The kind where people still wave when they pass you on the road, and the diner waitress knows how you take your coffee. It's quiet and sometimes boring, but it's home. I live a couple counties away now, but my parents are still there, And I visit every month or so. A few weeks back, I was home visiting when the local news broke a story that shook everyone to their core. They found a woman, an older woman, mid-60s maybe, who had been kept captive in one of the oldest farmhouses just outside the village for over 40 years. 40 years. Her name is Marjorie. The crazy part? I remember hearing her name as a kid. My mom used to mention how Marjorie went missing back in the late 70s. It was just one of those sad stories people in town whispered about. Nobody knew what happened to her. Some thought she ran away. Some thought she died and they just never found her body. I never thought much about it because by the time I was born, she was just another small-town mystery. But apparently she was never gone. She was right there. The farmhouse where they found her belonged to the Whitaker family. If you're from a place like mine, you know there's always that family. People who live on the outskirts, keep to themselves, never really come to church or town events. The Whitakers were exactly that. Old money once, back in the day. But over the years they just became strange. Their land was falling apart. The barns rotting, but they never sold it. Just stayed out there on their acres, barely interacting with anyone. I knew of them growing up. But we never mixed. The son, Curtis, was a few years older than my uncle. I heard stories that he was odd, mean-spirited, the kind of kid who'd pull the wings off flies. He never married, he stayed in that farmhouse his whole life, and as it turns out, he was the one keeping Marjorie captive. The details are still being pieced together, but what the sheriff's department shared is this. Marjorie went missing in 1979. When she was 24, she'd been working at the grocery store back then, living with her parents. One night, she was walking home after a late shift, and she never made it. People searched, but there were no leads. Everyone assumed the worst. But eventually, life just went on. Curtis apparently snatched her up that night and kept her in a locked room in the back of that crumbling farmhouse. For decades, when they finally found her, she was alive, malnourished, and completely out of touch with the world. She barely spoke above a whisper. She hadn't seen the outside in 40 years. The way they discovered her was almost stupid. A delivery driver got lost and pulled into the Whitakers' driveway by mistake. He swore he saw someone's face in an upstairs window, pale and desperate, so he called it in. The sheriff's deputies went out there expecting nothing. Instead, they found Marjorie. When I heard the news, I swear my stomach dropped. My mom cried. My dad just sat there shaking his head, repeating, "She was right there all this time. Right there. The whole town is in shock. People are angry, devastated, guilty. Everyone keeps asking the same question. How did nobody notice? How could someone be trapped for 4 decades and not a single soul realized?" I keep thinking about all the times I drove past that farmhouse as a kid. The place was creepy. We all joked about it being haunted. We dared each other to go up the driveway on Halloween. And all that time, she was inside. They arrested Curtis, obviously. He's in his 70s now. And from what I hear, he's not even denying it. Just sits in his cell like it's no big deal. Says she belonged there? The way the deputies described it. He fully believed she was his property. I can't stop thinking about Marjorie, though. How do you process losing your entire life like that? She's in her 60s now. The world she left in 1979 doesn't exist anymore. Technology, culture, everything. It's all alien to her. She never got to marry, or travel, or even just walk through a park freely. She lost all of it. The last time I visited my folks, we drove by the farmhouse. The place is swarming with police and reporters. My dad wouldn't even look at it. My mom said under her breath, "That poor girl. That poor girl." I don't know why I'm writing this here. Maybe because it feels too heavy to just sit with. Our town is small. People are shaken. Every conversation at the diner, at the gas station, even in church, it's all about Marjorie. Everyone feels guilty, like we all failed her. Like maybe if we'd paid more attention, asked more questions, she wouldn't have been trapped so long. I know it's not technically my fault. I wasn't even born when she disappeared, but still, I can't shake the weight of it. I drove past that house hundreds of times. I laughed at ghost stories about it. And all along, there was a real woman locked inside. waiting for someone to see her. Now that I know, I don't think I'll ever look at my hometown the same way again. So I wasn't expecting my original post to blow up the way it did. A lot of you messaged me asking if Marjorie was okay, if she had family left, what was happening with Curtis, and just how a whole town could miss something like this. I've been back home more since I wrote that first post, so I figured I'd give an update. The short answer: things are complicated. Marjorie is alive, yes, but okay is the wrong word. My mom says she saw her at the hospital when they first brought her in. One of her old cousins, Ruth, volunteers there, and she told my mom that Marjorie barely speaks above a murmur, like she's afraid her voice doesn't belong in the world anymore. She's frail. Someone said she weighs less than 100 pounds, and her hair is long, wiry and gray. She keeps it covering her face a lot of the time. When the doctors try to check her vitals, she flinches like they're going to hit her. They moved her out of the hospital into a private care facility for now. I don't know if rehabilitation is even the right word, because how do you rehabilitate someone who missed 40 years of life? But they've got specialists with her, trauma counselors, therapists, even language and social workers. They say she needs to learn how to live again. It breaks my heart, because she didn't just lose her freedom. She lost time, whole decades. People she loved are dead now. Her parents passed years ago, her siblings scattered. She's outlived most of the folks who would have been her support system. Now she's surrounded by cousins and nieces she doesn't remember, and I can't imagine how disorienting that must feel. As for Curtis, he's sitting in county jail waiting for trial. And get this, he doesn't deny any of it. He told the deputies he took care of her and that she belonged in his house. The sheriff said when they arrested him, he looked confused, like he didn't understand why it was a problem. He's 74 now, hunched over, walks with a cane, but there's something cold in his eyes that unsettles everyone. At church last Sunday, Pastor Miller said something that stuck with me. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it looks like the man you've lived next to for 50 years. And it's true. Curtis was always odd, sure, but he was just there. People waved at him on the rare times he came into town. My dad even remembers buying hay from him once in the early 90s. Nobody suspected he was hiding a woman in his upstairs bedroom. That's the part that's tearing the town apart. The guilt everyone keeps asking themselves. How didn't we know? My Aunt Deborah said she remembers hearing strange noises when she and her friend drove past that house late at night when they were teenagers. She brushed it off as animals. Now she wonders if it was Marjorie. I've been wrestling with it too. When I was a kid, the Whitaker farmhouse was where we'd dare each other to run up and touch the front porch. We called it the haunted house, I swear. One Halloween when I was maybe 12, I thought I saw someone in the upstairs window, but we all laughed it off. Now I can't stop thinking, what if that really was her? People are angry too. Curtis's brother, Leonard, who lives a few towns over, came to one of the sheriff's press briefings and shouted that Curtis should have been locked up a long time ago. Apparently, even his own family thought he was disturbed, but they just cut him off instead of intervening. And the rest of us? We just treated him like a recluse and let him fade into the background. The town is shaken. You can't walk into the diner without hearing people whispering about it. Some are furious, others are heartbroken. The local paper ran a piece called "The Woman Time Forgot" that's already been picked up by bigger outlets. Reporters from Louisville and even Chicago showed up last week, which feels surreal, my dad joked bitterly. We're on the map for all the wrong reasons. One of the hardest things I heard was from my mom. She said she and Marjorie used to be in the same Sunday school class back when they were little girls. She remembers playing with her in the churchyard, braiding flowers into each other's hair. When she saw the first pictures of Marjorie being carried out of that farmhouse, she said it broke her in two because she didn't see the woman she remembered. She saw a shell of her friend, and yet, there's hope, tiny sparks of it. My cousin Allison works part-time at the care facility, and she told me that last week. Marjorie actually laughed. It was small and quiet, but still, it was laughter apparently. One of the therapists showed her a kitten video on an iPad, and she laughed at it. Allison said the whole room froze because it was the first sign that she might find joy again. Another thing, Marjorie loves being outside now. They take her to the garden every day, and she sits in the sun for hours. One of the nurses said she just closes her eyes and breathes, like she's trying to soak in every second after 40 years locked away. I guess even a breeze must feel like a miracle. As for the trial, they're expecting it to drag out. Curtis's defense attorney already hinted that he's going to claim mental incompetence. The town is livid at the thought of him dodging real consequences. I overheard some folks at the diner say if justice doesn't happen in court, justice might happen another way. That scared me a little. I don't know where this leaves me. Honestly, every time I visit, I drive past that farmhouse. The windows are boarded up now, and there are police signs posted all around it. But I can't stop staring, thinking about all those nights I passed it, never knowing it's like a scar on the town, something that will never fully heal. I guess the biggest thing I've realized is that evil doesn't always happen in faraway places. Sometimes it's right in your backyard, hiding in plain sight, while the rest of us look the other way, and I don't know how to forgive myself, or any of us, for not seeing her sooner. It's been about a year since my last update, and I think this will be the final time I write about this. A lot has happened, some good, some bad, and a lot that's just complicated. But I owe it to everyone who's been following this story to give some closure. First off, Curtis's trial is over. He tried to play the mentally incompetent card, but the court-appointed psychiatrists didn't buy it. They said he knew exactly what he was doing, and that he maintained control and secrecy for decades, which takes planning and intent. The jury deliberated for less than a day. He was convicted on multiple charges: kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, sexual assault, and a slew of others. The sentence is effectively life. He's 75 now, and barring some miracle appeal, he'll die in prison. When the verdict was read, the courtroom was packed. I was there, sitting with my mom and cousin Allison. I'll never forget the moment they said, "Guilty." A hush fell over the whole room. Then this strange, quiet exhale, like everyone had been holding their breath for 40 years. Marjorie wasn't in the courtroom. Her doctors thought it would be too traumatizing. But her cousin Ruth was there. She cried the entire time. Now Curtis, people asked me if I felt sorry for him. Given his age and all, I don't. There wasn't an ounce of remorse in him when the judge gave his sentence. Curtis just stared straight ahead like none of it mattered. The sheriff told me later that he acts the same way in jail. Doesn't talk much, doesn't interact, just sits there. Honestly, it creeps me out more than if he'd raged or begged for mercy. But I don't want this to just be about him. It's about Marjorie. She's been living in a specialized care facility, but it's not the sterile hospital environment anymore. They set her up in a cottage-style place with full-time staff and therapists. The first time I visited, I was nervous. I didn't know if she'd remember me, or if she'd even want visitors from the town that forgot her. When I walked in, she was sitting by the window, knitting, I swear, for a second. She looked just like my grandmother. But then she smiled at me, a small, cautious smile, and said, "You used to be Deborah's boy, didn't you?" Deborah's my aunt. And just like that, I felt my throat close up. She remembered. We talked for a while. Her voice is soft, a little shaky, but she speaks more than she used to. She told me she spends a lot of time outside, walking in the garden, sitting by the fountain. "I like the sound of water," she said. "It reminds me that time is moving." That line stuck with me. She doesn't talk much about Curtis, at least not directly when she does. It's in fragments, like mentioning how she used to count the days by watching the seasons change through a crack in the curtains, or how she'd hum old hymns to herself to stay sane. But then she'll change the subject quickly. I think she's still figuring out how much of her past she wants to carry, and how much she wants to leave behind. One thing that gives me hope is that she's reconnecting with people. My mom visits her weekly. So does Ruth and some of the other cousins. A local women's group actually started bringing her homemade quilts, books, and even some old records from the 70s to help her feel more grounded. She cried the first time someone played Fleetwood Mac for her because she said she hadn't heard music in so long. It felt like a dream. The town is still processing. There's a lot of guilt, but also this determination to be better. The sheriff's department started a community watch program. and the church hosts regular awareness nights, where social workers talk about recognizing signs of abuse or isolation. Some people roll their eyes at it, but honestly, I think it's necessary. We failed once. We can't afford to again. That said, not everyone is noble about it. Some folks treat Marjorie like a curiosity, whispering when she's seen out with staff. That part makes me sick. She's not a sideshow. She's a survivor. I called one guy out at the diner when he started making some offhand comment about how she doesn't look that bad for being locked up. I nearly lost it on him. People forget she's a human being, not just a story. Personally, I've had to face my own guilt. I keep thinking about that night when I was 12. Swearing I saw someone in the window. What if I'd said something? Would anyone have believed me? Would it have made a difference? I'll never know. But talking to Marjorie helped a little, she told me. Don't waste the rest of your life on what-ifs. Live the time you've got. That's coming from someone who lost 4 decades. If she can say that, then I've got no excuse. One powerful moment happened a few weeks ago. The town hosted a small gathering for her. Nothing big, nothing press-invited. Just a quiet, welcome home of sorts at the church. People brought food, sang a few hymns, and just surrounded her with love. She didn't say much, but when they lit candles for the years she lost, she stood up slowly and said, "I'm still here." That was it. 3 words, but it broke everyone in that room. So where does that leave things? Curtis is gone, rotting in prison. Marjorie is rebuilding a life she never thought she'd get back. The town is learning how to live with its collective guilt. And me, I think I've learned that silence is dangerous. That turning a blind eye, even when things feel harmless, can ruin lives. I'm not naive. I know she'll never get back what she lost. There's no happy ending that erases 40 stolen years. But there's resilience, there's survival, and there's the small, stubborn miracle that she's here at all. The last time I visited, I brought her some daisies. She set them in a little vase by the window and said, "They smell like freedom." I'll never forget that, so yeah. That's where it ends. Not with justice fully making things right, because nothing can, but with Marjorie breathing free air, sitting in the sun, and deciding, day by day, that her story isn't over yet.